Welcome back, Titan Conqueror League, for yet another season here in the winter of 2026 for some more incredible League of Legends action. Ivan Isaac alongside me today, Freedom Potatoes, is my color caster, and we're bringing you the matchup between Skyloft, Spire, and To The Moon Galatea, Freedom Potatoes.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting matchup. As always, I'm excited to be here, starting off the Conqueror split, the winter split. And yeah, two teams that I think are relatively unknown. I haven't heard a ton of buzz around them on my end. I think they, were a little slept on perhaps in the power rankings, but it'll be a good chance for them to show their stuff, break out, put a good, start off on the right foot this season. Yeah, do you have any predictions for how this one's gonna go?
I am a little bit biased because I more so like name recognitions and people I've seen played, and so it's more of a familiarity sort of thing. But I'm familiar with Backsouls and Witch at Black Mass's game. I've seen them around a bit, and I think they are pretty solid players, and because of that extra sort of comfort that I'm familiar with them, it's like, yeah, I think they ought to do good. But in fairness, that's more so to do with the fact that I'm a little bit more unsure about the To The Moon Galatea's lineup. So obviously we'll have to wait and see, because what I do like about To The Moon Galatea's lineup is that their ADC, Fortune, does play a lot of Miss Fortune. I always love a good old-fashioned name champion synergy. It just feels something right about that,
Yeah, that does feel right. And if I'm not mistaken, Fortune is actually a name change from somewhat longtime player Arcs Knight. Unless I'm reading that.
Never mind. I do recognize them. I recognize that one. I didn't recognize Fortune.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on
if
here.
If that is the case,
that's if I'm reading
that'd probably take
that
too long to go
player.
through the name changes.
But yeah, that is a big power point for the side of TTMG.
Yeah, but I mean, there is also that little bit of extra fun coming into like a series or a league with that relative unknown, because sometimes we do get those handful of surprises that come through. I think specifically one that came to mind maybe isn't from Titan Conqueror League, but I remember for doing Blue Otter Diamond. Oh gosh, no, what was the ADC's name for Seneca Swarm? They were all completely new, and the team as a general didn't necessarily do great, but specifically that player stood out. Oh gosh, no, I'm inting. Anyway, point is that unknowns can definitely throw a few surprises, and we'll have to wait and see. And it gives you that little bit of extra, I guess, cheering for the newcomer. I think helps a bit.
Yeah, newcomers can do some damage. If people have been around a long time, sure, they've got experience, but if they've stayed in the same league, maybe they're washed. Who knows?
Yeah, when you see, especially, no, I'm not going to get into IDSG and nonsense like that. That feels a little bit too much. But as we get into the new patch notes, it is patch day today, Freedom Potatoes. We had quite a few big ones. Mel specifically took quite the hit, or had quite the change, not necessarily quite the hits. And also Phallites and Turret Plates definitely have changed the game a bit. Obviously, because it is today's patch day and I literally only had about an hour to prepare, I'm not quite sure how that'll play out, but that's another little bit of added element of the uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, Mel was a real power pick in this league, especially. I saw a lot of people carry games on her, and she's been, for a lot of people, one of the most frustrating champions in the game. So Riot really trying to hit some of those frustration points with the invulnerability on her W. That's now gone, replaced by a shield. So I think a lot of people who dislike the champion are going to be looking forward to that. But I'm curious, they did give her some increased damage on her skills, also reduced the CC reduced like some of the projectile sizes on her abilities. So yeah, I think you're gonna have to put in a little more effort to really make the champ work. But if you're a truly skilled Mel, you can still get a lot of mileage out of the champion. Some other changes that I'm kind of looking forward to are the adjustments to Armored Advance and the upgraded Merc Treads also. As a mid laner where those come into play frequently, I thought it was really frustrating sometimes to build like cooldown reduction boots or the Sorcerer's Shoes, and then you try to 1v1 your opponent and they've just got a shield. You kind of automatically lose that trade. So you have to either hurt your own damage by going a defensive item, or you can deal more damage overall, but then kind of take the hit in the 1v1. So those getting a little bit of an early nerf. It's going to be, yeah, I think pretty nice for mid laners that like to build more offensively.
And personally, I do love seeing more damage in the games. It definitely feels good. Obviously, up to a certain point, but generally, the defensive boots definitely added that extra level of protection for mid laners and kind of nullified the lane in general once they got acquired. Obviously, until that point, a bit different. But we are into draft. We are underway, and I mean, oh gosh, we are straight away no fortune for fortune. It's not happening here in game one. I mean, it's expected.
But I mean, if you didn't want them to ban it, you shouldn't put it in your name.
That's true. Hey, counterpoint. Chime, if you remember him, did not play a lot of Bard, so. But either way, going through the sets of bans, TTMG taking away the Diana and the Gwen, both champions that are comfort picks, or at least they've played a lot in solo queue for Baxel and Witch at Black Mass, those two longtime players. So clearly, To the Moon Galatea respecting their elders on the opposite side.
Yeah, those are both strong flex picks that also benefited a lot from Dusk and Dawn, especially, I think, for Diana. So, yeah, with some of those nerfs coming in, those champions might not be as high priority, but, you know, people still carrying some of those feelings from the last patch, or maybe they're still just as strong. But either way, we've got the Sivir picked up for the side of SLS. Strong blind pick, can kind of just wave clear and scale, but Smolder kind of likes to do the same thing.
Yeah, and both high scaling, both eventually, you know, come online and do their thing late on. Both also takeaways from the others' favored champion pool. So, you know, whittling things down, playing the fearless metagame really early on, and again, Sion getting locked in. Not exactly the most exciting champ. We've seen a lot of him, but you know, a very safe one and a strong one at that.
Generally a safe one, but he does have his bad matchups, and I do think the Mbessa is a champion that has the persistent damage to really deal with a Sion as the game goes later. So yeah, interesting to see the top laners picked up so early, unless a Sion ends up being flexed somewhere else. But I do see that Dwango Unchained likes to play that champion, so it's probably going to be a Sion top and a Wukong jungle for the side of TTMG. Xin Zhao picked up by SLS, so two, you know, very common staple junglers, strong dueling power, see access to CC, kind of everything you want, really.
Yeah, Wukong's been, as well as Xin Zhao even, have been in the meta for what has felt like forever, other than that one patch last year early on where mages were good. But outside of that, they are just the junglers of the game, and to be fair, for good reason. Especially, you know, Xin Zhao gets a lot of pressure early on, and as soon as Wukong hits level 6, the Cyclone, especially now that you can cast it twice, it's just such a strong ability that you just can't underrate it.
Yeah, multiple AoE knockups is pretty ridiculous. SLS banning away some of the supports in TTMG, taking away a few of those mid laners, and it's going to be a Talia picked up for Mint in the mid lane.
Yeah, again, just solid, strong picks. But Syndra, on the other hand, is one that perhaps we see a little bit more of. Like, I guess it's the lower elo you go, and definitely can provide a lot of pressure. Though one that's we may not see at the higher levels of play, and especially since that's who's been playing a lot more so early on in the season is what we're familiar with. But pairing it with the Xin Zhao, having that really early pressure, that layering of CC sets up the Scatter of the Week really easily and can provide a lot of kill potential.
Yeah, the gank setup with the Scatter of the Week into that dash in from Xin Zhao, lethal combo. And, you know, SLS's team doesn't have that many dashes, so the Talia pick, I'm not completely sure if it'll work out. I mean, it is a very strong pick with a lot of roaming potential. It scales great. And in those team fights, it's going to be really strong. But in the 1v1, kind of gets outranged by the Syndra, so I do worry that they could struggle a little bit in that 1v1. But, you know, if you pilot the Talia well, I think she's super versatile.
Yeah, and also maybe not so much at like the D4 gap level, or at least I haven't necessarily seen some crazy dog.
Is this that
Dog.
video game Sleeping Dogs or whatever?
It's actually, we're bringing back Nintendogs here on Titan Conqueror League. That's just how it is. This is now a Nintendogs stream. I've never actually played Nintendogs, if I'm being completely honest. Anyway, moving away from the distraction of the dog on screen. What was I was talking about? Yes, Weaver's Wall is one that also provides a bunch of utility to be able to force your opponent to walk in more unorthodox routes.
Yeah, you can seal off those choke points. You can, cut your opponent's escape off and find a flank. It's one of those abilities that I think really defines how good a player is at that champion, because it's not a combat ability. You can't use it during combat. It doesn't do damage. You really need to be creative with the angles you find with that Weaver's Wall. Hold that thought.
See you in Fortune pressing forward. Going to be targeted out by Witch at Black Mass. Can't quite find the auto attack. Actually does, but does take a lot of damage in return. But as level 1s these days aren't allowed to go on as long as we used to allow. The minions have already spawned. We're already ready to go, and they back away. But also, no one can recall. Witch at Black Mass did take a decent chunk of damage there.
Yeah, but the junglers still heal quite a bit, so I don't know if the Xin Zhao is going to be caring too much about that damage. On the other hand, CU also took a decent chunk on Nami, but that's another champion with access to healing.
Yeah.
So, not a super impactful trade overall. I think Fortune got at least 1 or 2 stacks on that Smolder Q as well.
This is a Diamond 4 cap rank threshold to the chatter that I've now seen. Thank you to Sherrigan. We'll get in early. Usually we save the shout out to the production at the end. But yes, this is the Conqueror League is a D4 cap league. So I suppose saying Emerald would probably be more apt. But we have hit level 2. Fortune and CU hit that mark first. Do use that extra pressure, drop a few auto attacks, but level 2s or just early on between the Smolder and Nami, Sivir, Lulu, probably not going to be the most action packed in the bottom lane.
Yeah, I'd expect they're mostly just looking to scale up, try to shove in the other side and get access to those dragons, but Boomerang Blade going wide.
Yeah, and I think Sivir definitely does that a lot better, especially once she finally picks up the essence. You're able to regenerate that mana and then start to permanently shove in waves. Seismic of Lamb's Mitt takes a tower shot in return. Both these mid laners are quite low, which at Black Mass and Giggity might just have their eyes on both of these relatively immobile mages.
Yeah, Mint looking pretty out of mana in particular. Might have to take an early reset, but in the new season, those home guards do wonders for getting back to lane if you do have to do so. And so Mint is recalling, but looks like he got interrupted
there. It was canceled, yeah.
Yeah. So that is going to be tough. But yeah, you can definitely be a little more aggressive with trading your HP and mana if you're able to set up a good reset for yourself. Still got to be careful about, the early ganks as the junglers are approaching that timer. They are looking for these crabs, it looks like, but we'll see if they look for a gank mid afterwards.
Opposite sides of the map, they do both collapse into that mid wave. I do think Witch at Black Mass on the Xin Zhao earlier does slightly advantaged in general with the extra power has been said. He looks at the top lane. Dwango Unchained going to go for a ward. Doesn't know that Witch at Black Mass is here. The knock up lands. That'll be first blood to the Xin Zhao.
Looks like no summoners used by anyone. Dwango just accepting it, goes down, but is still able to clear out this wave pretty nicely with the passive and does have the TP. Baxel is not going to be able to farm this full wave, I don't think. So Dwango not going to be feeling too bad about that death. Not going to be getting frozen on or anything like that. But, still, the Xin Zhao getting that early kill is going to be accelerated towards that first item and could start to take over these early skirmishes.
Yeah, it's crazy how useful Sundered Sky has been for its key users for as long as it has been. It's been over a year now. I feel like that was at the beginning of the start of last season, which it really started to pop off. But Giggity is here trying to find a dive onto Baxel. Decimating Smash comes through, finds not the knockup, gets a slow, sets up Giggity for a dive, and will claim the kill onto the Wukong.
So all in all, I think the top lane for TTMG coming out ahead of that exchange despite being on the receiving end of that first gank.
Yeah, Baxel definitely missed out on a handful of minions, even though he does have access to the teleport. But knowing that Giggity is on the top half of the map, Dwango Unchained immediately goes straight to proxying.
Proxying on the Scion is, of course, a classic, and Baxel's looking to stop it here, but might end up having to give up some farm. Dwango just going to take the execute and try to collect some of those minions. Really just living the Baus lifestyle in the early game here.
Yeah, I mean, he got the wave shoved in. He'll be able to get back before he loses much of anything. Bubble not quite landing its way onto Seeker, but the Lulu is at half health. Polymorph drops onto Fortune, but Seeker not taking, I don't know, words not taken, is taken. No, words are sometimes a bit difficult, but we do have a really low Lulu as Giggity once again showing up potentially for a gank. That mid brush is warded, or the pixel brush, more accurately. Will spot out the gank. Seeker and Domination back away and don't allow that to come through.
That Phaelite down there was nerfed a little bit, so you're getting a little bit less vision of the river. I think it cuts off close to where the Scuttle Crab vision is now, whereas it used to extend a little, past the pit. So Mint looks for a trade on Obongo, but doesn't get the E thrown out, and so it's gonna fizzle out. We have level 6 online for most champions for those solo laners. Jungle and the bot lane still catching up here, but we might start seeing a Talia roam, potentially even from spawn here, if they like the look of this dragon, but it looks like Giggity's just trying to reset. So dragon might still be a little ways out. The bot lane for SLS is showing up first here. If they can get that wave shoved in, then dragon could be theirs to look at instead.
Especially as Domination on the server definitely has the ability to push a lot faster early on, or just, and not even early on, just in general. So as a result, they get the shove out. Dragon is started up. Aquavision lands way onto Seeker. Takes about a fifth of his HP. Honeyfruit is there to heal right back up the Lulu. And since Giggity doesn't show any sort of interest towards the bottom half of the map, is moving away, it'll be first Drake very comfortably going the way of Skyloft Spire.
Yeah, Skyloft Spire off to
Dwango Unchained's actually gone very low. Public Execution lands away on the flash. I swear that went a little bit on the south side of Dwango Unchained, but the kill is found through Baxel, going to flash away from the gank, but now the Weaver's Wall blocks off his exit. Mint will try to set up Giggity, or at least get it himself. Baxel's gone low. Giggity finally picks up the kill. Second tower shot is enough to trade the kill back around. So 2 kills for Baxel in the 3v1.
Yeah, that is splendid for Baxel, getting 2 kills, as you said, in the 3v1. That's gonna let Obongo push out. That's a great spot to be in. I mean, Obongo just got to pick up a nice CS lead mid, still has access to the ult if another skirmish breaks out. Witch at Black Mass is starting to counter jungle here on the Xin Zhao. Might even look for a fight at the enemy red buff. We'll see. And
speaking of a fight, Aquaprison not going to land. Would have been spell shielded anyway, but Domination's pushed completely off. As Seeker had roamed up towards mid, trying to set up for the Rift Herald spawn. Mint going to be stunned. But he's now recognizing that he's in a little bit of trouble with the gate and will just immediately flash away. Not going to want to have to test his luck in the 3v1.
Mint also blowing the ghost down both summer spells, which means SLS in a great position to get these grubs. First dragon and first grubs is going to put them off to a fantastic start in game number 1 here.
Yeah, that's about the ideal situation to be in, especially when you get your top laner 2 kills when so much was committed to be able to kill Baxel is certainly not the outcome True Minded Gaming would have hoped for.
Hey, this isn't True Minded Gaming. That's To the Moon.
Oh my gosh, you're right. It's To the Moon. I ran. No, when I was taking notes for this, the abbreviation is TTMG, and that's the the abbreviation we got for this matchup. And it took me like 10 minutes looking for the True Minded Gaming team that was with TMG, and that's my mistake. It is what it is. We move on. If Azael can call. I think it was Lion Dignitas. I think we give me this one, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's week 1. We're still getting to know these teams.
Yeah, but going to calm down a little bit here is it's not really too much on the map. Next Drake spawning in 2.5 minutes, which, you know, give the time to, you know, poke fun at people who actually do this for a living, who are far better than me. I love you, Azale, but I don't even know where I was going with that. And it's very much a one-sided thing because Azale doesn't know who I am, even if we share the same. You know what? Where am I going with this point? Burrito potatoes, what is going on? Just take over because I've gone too far off the rails with this.
So, I mean, yeah, no major objectives for a while. Still 2 minutes on the next dragon, and it's going to be, what, about 4 minutes on the Rift Herald. So, I'd expect this game to be at a bit of a standstill until those spawn teams. Not going to want to commit any major cooldowns, but Vaxel is in a great state in this game, can just take the 1v1 with the Scion already, and I don't think things are going to get much better for Dwango Unchained. Another Scatter of the Week landing in mid lane. Obongo is, you know, slowly but surely building up those stats, and TTMG keeps trying to find plays on the bot lane. I feel like they're having some success taking the trades, you know, despite Smolder's allegedly weak early game, but it's going to be a while till that champion really starts to become a monster in this game.
Yeah, and it's just kind of the spot that we're in, but Obongo going to flash forward, cast the Unleashed Power, gets a solo kill. Just a minute before the Drake spawns. Luckily, the cooldown timers or the respawn timers are a bit low, so Mint should be able to get back in time. But being able to get that influx of gold and pick up their Ludens right as an objective is spawning is pretty ideal for SLS.
Yeah, well, and Obongo actually already had the Ludens there. He just completed the Sorcerer's Shoes, but I mean, that item difference, you know, Ludens versus Lost Chapter and the Lucidity Boots is absolutely massive, and he plays off that power spike, uses the level 6, and, you know, that's those slow, you know, little leads accumulating over time. You know, Mint roamed to top lane earlier, which meant that Obongo got some free farm, got at least one turret plating, and that gold turns into a solo kill, and now that might turn into even more.
Gotta feel that will almost certainly be the Drake spawning up in 10 seconds. Mint doesn't have his own item completed, only sitting on the Lost Chapter. Does have the tier as well, so he's stacking that one up, but the combat power from TTMG, especially in a 4v4, I feel like probably not going to quite be there just yet. Of course, the bot lane of SLS is recalling, looking to pick up some items for themselves. It's going to be level on the Essence Reavers. They're in the bottom lane, but it does mean TTMG is at the Drake first.
Yeah, and it looks like that reset from the side of SLS's bot lane was spotted out, but Witch at Black Mass is thinking about going in, but no, it's going to be the Drake handed over, and that is nice for TTMG.
That stops the stacking, stops the extra pressure that Soul Point would bring. We are going to get the Cloud map, which is utilized quite well by SLS's team. You know, Sivir gets that really fast burst of move speed. Xin Zhao popping the Crescent Guard gets him some extra. Dwango Unchained going to use the Unstoppable Onslaught, lands the knock-up. Not going to get more than a handful of tower shots, but does take Vaxel quite low.
Vaxel should have that flash.
Hold on, Giggity flashing forward over the Scatter of the Week, gets the Cyclone, second proc, also finds a knockup. Mint going to flash to the sides, get away from the gank from Witch at Black Mass. Mint slow mints down as Black Mass gets the kill to be able to trade that 1-for-1, and one person Q is all Vaxel needs to pick up a kill, but we don't have time to breathe because straight into the bottom lane, the double knockup on the tidal wave, the CC layering from CU says see you later to Seeker. They're setting up a really nice play in the bottom lane.
It's a bloodbath across the map, kills in mid, top, and bottom lane. And overall, the gold is still dead even, the Drakes are still dead even, so it's tough to say who's really coming out on top here. But we're going to get a replay of this mid lane play here. Yeah, Obongo and Witch at Black Mass kind of looking for the dive here, but then once the Xin Zhao shows topside, Giggity's able to take this aggressive play here. Goes in, lands the Cyclone, and even though Mint is so low on HP, has a nice flash away from the skill shots from the Syndra here and just tanks the Unleashed Power. It's able to live. And then, yeah, Vaxel doing so much damage with that Q. I feel like I don't usually do that ability.
It seemed absurdly a lot, yeah.
And the range on it. And then, as you said, no breathing room. Fortune and CU getting aggressive here in the 2v2. I feel like the Nami early on has a little bit more raw combat power, so you know, yeah, that CC layering specifically is so potent.
Double tidal wave, double aqua prison. I mean, that's just see you later's. Really, all you add on to that is, I mean, bit of an odd transition, just in case. It is Conqueror League, but we've gotten right back in live. It is what it is. And, you know, I don't really think we probably missed too much. There's not much going on as, I mean, the Rift Herald is up and available, which hadn't been targeted just yet. Mint actually gone very low. Mint solo killed by Obongo once again. This Syndra is going off, but the intention to go straight to the top lane as Baxel is taken very low. There's too many around for him to really get out. Giggity finds the kill, Witch back, Mass finds CU, who is now seeing the gray screen, trades of kills across the map. And so SLS moves straight on to the Rift Herald. I don't think Giggity is really looking all too aggressive to contest this one.
It's a nice trade across the map, but yeah, CU wandering into river without vision and gets caught there. Obongo so strong in this 1v1. As I mentioned, until the Talia has that time to skill, the Syndra has a pretty good time with this matchup because you just have much easier access to the stun. It's a quicker combo. It's a little less telegraphed than what Talia is trying to do. It's got the range advantage, and you just have a lot of power in these early skirmishes. Now, yeah, as the game goes on, especially once that Seraph's Embrace it gets upgraded, then the Talia can kind of start trading back, you know, has that shield, less likely to get bursted, but here comes the ult.
Reverse wall going to be used. It's not quite going to catch out Domination, unfortunately. The Weaver's Wall just a little bit, probably even just a handful of pixels too close to the red base. Not going to lock down Domination or force out much of anything, but the option was there. Does get the recall, or chooses to recall, and we'll have to move back, but does allow TTMG to set up a little bit more around this next Drake spawning in 40 seconds.
Mint has now completed that upgraded tier item, has the upgraded lucidity boots as well, so it's really going to be spamming those skills now, and that is when the Talia starts to shine a little bit more. But Obongo up almost a full item in the mid lane, very close to that Shadow Flame. It's going to be really scary for CU here.
CU will not be marked by Xin Shao. That sometimes hitboxes in this game, they confuse me a little bit. Because I could have sworn earlier Dwango Unchained was not hit by the public execution, and I could have sworn that CU was tagged there. Either way, we live with the ramifications of said hitboxes. And so now, once again, TTMG having a little bit more access to the river as the Drake has spawned. Teleport coming through very quickly from Dwango Unchained will be arriving soon to make this a 5v5 around this Drake. Still advantage GTMG. Rift Herald will be summoned up in the mid lane to force some pressure, extra movement to the side of Seeker, who will eventually get out. Oh, whoa, goes in on the Ambessa. Baxel has gone maybe a little bit too far. They trade back Giggity immediately. And so the 1-for-1 for now. Seeker still sitting very low. Baxel a little bit too aggressive with that previous one, but the Scatter of the Weak finds its way onto Mint. Won't quite find the kill. Has the ability to heal back up on the Nami, but still is very low. Is tagged once again. Will be healing up now with the extra help of CU. Scatter of the Weak finds its way onto CU. Has to flash away from the Q. So no Summoner's Flash on CU, but no, not a lot of kills either side of it. Both teams very, very poking and prodding heavily. But we go out. Drake is started up by Witch at Black Mass. A bit alone. Teleports are available and coming through down. Seeker spotted, taken quite low. Baxel is here to try to buy some space. The target is Dwango Unchained for now. Giggity gets killed onto Speaker. Baxel in the back line, trying to all the way down at Mint. Won't quite find the kill onto the mid laner. Double kill for Giggity. And now Obongo's the only one left on the side of SLS, but Mint's gone a bit too far. His Domination was slowly rotating back up to the back end of this fight. So TTMG eventually pick up the Drake and quite a few kills in the process.
Yeah, TTMG closed that gold lead a little bit. And in the super extended fight, do also claim their second Drake. So Despite the little bit of a lead that SLS had in the early game, TTMG still holding on very well. It's that Smolder in particular, I think, is going to become very scary shortly. Sitting at 2-0 and 2. That Wukong also pretty strong here. Giggity did only find, I think, Seeker, just the one with the Cyclone in that fight, but if he's able to find a little bit more impact with that ability, I think those fights could easily go TTMG's way. But so far, it's really all coming down to execution. These team comps have felt very evenly matched. You've got a lot of front line. You've got, the supports keeping that front line enabled, and then some big damage dealers in the back. But now we've got the Baron spawning. Don't think anyone's going to be looking for that too early, but there may be a play in the river.
Could potentially be Baxel, the target of TTMG. They're collapsing onto him. Giggity won't go in onto Baxel. CU was also maybe looking a little bit dangerously close with how squishy the Nami is. But they'll just show up top and not commit too much. As you mentioned, Baron is on the map, and giving up the big purple worm this early either way would not be ideal, especially with how sensitive this game has been. You've already covered it with with the vibes of it, but the gold matches the vibes.
Yeah, gold extremely close no matter which way these fights have swung. Seems like even when a team loses a fight, they've got someone picking up farm elsewhere or something to keep things pretty neutral. But yeah, Baxel, level 14 now, has a pretty sizable health bar. And you saw there, even in the 3v1, TTMG was a little scared of this Mbessa. If the wrong person gets hit by that ultimate, they could go down in a flash. But neither side looking to get too aggressive here. Don't want to chance things. Don't want to throw away your chance at the Baron. But Mint is under tower, and Witch at Black Mass might be looking for a play there. CU, though, looking to cover.
CU, though, we spotted on the ward, and we'll clear that out. Doesn't look like Witch at Black Mass will try to capitalize on an isolated Nami. Instead, they wait around and instead are looking perhaps onto Mint for a dive. Scatter the Weak finds the mark, and so there's nowhere to go for Mint. Once again, going down 0-5-6. Honestly, is not having the best of time here in game one.
And SLS spot CU clearing the ward down by the red buff. That lets them pull the trigger on the Talia under her own turret. And even with the Seraph shield, it's not enough. Xin Zhao's just too tanky. Syndra does too much damage. And so that's going to be a kill and a turret picked up for the blue team here. Continuing to push the tempo a little bit in the mid game here. It feels like their champions are really coming online with these 2 item spikes. And ooh, Dwango might be in trouble.
Goes forward. Dwango is decently low. Public execution does land. It's an all-in angle from Baxel, but the shields come through, and they're not enough. Baxel, the amount of damage he does on this Mbessa, we've seen it, and yet somehow it's still surprising with 1 Q being able to find that execution.
Baxel is just slapping around Dwango in the 1v1. Still has the same number of deaths because he's been the target of a good amount of attention from TTMG, but you can see how scary that Mbessa is for a tank to fight. So she just has the extended trades with that energy constantly regenning, stacking up. I believe Baxel is running Conqueror, so that's also great for those extended trades. And yeah, we've got a Dragon coming up in 1 minute here. If TTMG can secure that, that'll put them on Soul Point. And with the Smolder continuing to scale into the late game, that is going to be scary. So SLS gonna want to try to deny this one. You can see they've got the early vision set up. They're maybe trying to find a play on whoever walks into this bush.
It could be Fortune. Gets the Spice in, so now Giggity and CU is the target. Tidal Wave will be used, but it'll only dissuade Witch at Black Mass and SLS. Weaver's Wall going to cut off the escape. Seeker's taking a big chunk of damage by the Smolder. Public execution goes through from Baxel, trying to get Mintz low. Gets him down to half HP. Dwayne Unchained now arriving with teleport of their own. Giggity flashes forward, trying to target down Baxel. Witch at Black Mass has arrived to help out his top laner, but is instead executed by the stacked up Fortune. Double kill for the Smolder. No jungler, no top laner. And with Drake spawning in a few seconds, that means TTMG are going to move it up to Soul Point.
4-0 now. Fortune on the Smolder is huge, getting the double kill there. And the Dragon should be going over to the side of TTMG, but you can see Obongo is going to look for a steal over the wall, potentially. That Syndra Burst can be lethal on those objectives, but it's going to be Smolder grabbing it away. Ooh, this should be a kill.
Scatter the Weak lands his way onto Mint. And indeed it is Freedom Potatoes. Very good pick from Obongo. Mint not really respecting the location of the Syndra. And I mean, we didn't see the Drake, but you got to feel that the attempt was there. Oh,
Fortune.
My God. Wow, Fortune just deletes domination in a blink of an eye. Teleport coming down into the mid lane. Baxel going to do his best to collapse down onto CU, gets him quite low, won't be able to find much more. Giggity in the back and finds Seeker, and so the response to the counter punch from TTMG, despite looking in a little bit of trouble themselves, pick up a kill down onto Seeker. 2 odd kills with Baron up. Do they try it?
They could try it, but these death timers are short, and Baron in this season is a little tougher than it used to be with the removal of Otacon, right? It kind of shifted a little bit of that onto this objective. Still, the full team for TTMG is here to hit the objective, and it's going to be a while till SLS's bot lane can get here. It looks like it might be a give and maybe try to steal angle here.
Witch at Black Mass, though, is walk forward. Weaver's Wall does cut off the angle for Witch at Black Mass for a potential steal. It'll go down now. He'll try to walk forward. Crescent Guard will be used to find a way in. Won't quite find the kill, but Mint does go down to Obongo. Witch at Black Mass immediately traded back. His jungler did go a bit too far. Giggity goes forward onto domination, pops the Cyclone, then immediately backs away from the Sivir. There wasn't too much follow-up from the rest of his team. Boomerang Blade going to tag Giggity, not quite see you. And so TTMG get out, only losing Mint in the process. Of course, as I say that, Scatter the Weak finds way into Dwango and Chain, and it has lethal onto the Scion. So, you know, of course, as soon as I say one thing, SLS say, nah.
They are not going down without a fight. It kind of felt like things were slipping away from SLS with those kills and the Baron going over to TTMG, but they fire back with 2 kills of their own and now 2 inner turrets taken as well. So despite the Baron going over to the red team, SLS has reclaimed the gold lead. So they are certainly still in this, but I really need Obongo to find the kill on Fortune. That's what SLS has to be looking for, because that Smolder has not died. If we're nuking Talia every fight, yes, we're removing a lot of the utility from the other team, but we see how much damage that Smolder does. So they need to find a way to kill this little dragon, because he is really positioning quite well in these fights. Was very mindful of Obongo's position in that mid lane bush, dodging away from the Scatter of the Weak, and yeah, just keeping himself healthy.
A 5-0 and 4, 3.5 items for Fortune. Definitely a problem for the side of SLS. Domination is chunked. Mint's going to try to follow up to find the kill, and he does. Picking up his first of the game is finally on the board. The extra Nami heals are going to come through. The amount of damage he took from the tower will be negated fairly quickly.
Those heals and shields adding up, and the Baron doing work under the tower. Obongo's waiting over the wall to see if a squishy will walk too close. Does hit a nice chunk on Giggity, but it's not enough.
Giggity's definitely has a little bit of extra tankiness to him, even though he doesn't have necessarily any explicitly tank items. This Wukong, definitely pretty healthy. Baxel in the meantime, and meanwhile, takes top lane tier 2, but might be collapsed on by Mint and Fortune. It's going to take a lot to get out. It's good unraveled earth from Mint to find the stun. And so now Baxel not going to land the public execution, gets a flash out of Mint in the meantime. The seismic shove will force Baxel away back onto the unraveled earth and will secure the kill without losing much more than the flash.
I swear that looked like Mint flashed in place and somehow still dodged the public execution, but maybe I'm just seeing things. I feel like if that Mbessa ult on Scion hit earlier, that one on the Talia definitely should have. But hey, it's a finicky ability. It's a thin skill shot, so we won't worry too much about that. But another turret going the way of TTMG. They have now gotten the gold lead back, and there's a Drake spawning in 22 seconds that Giggity's recalling for. That might make, okay, no, he's gonna cancel it. And TTMG does have the positioning around this objective.
Giggity gets forward, is scattered the Weak back away, but Bongo going to flash as a response to not get caught. This Syndra has been a very big part of SLS's success so far in this game, but now, as you mentioned many of times, Fortune is online on the Smolder at 4 items. It's exactly who they need to get out of this fight, but he's far away from any of the SLS members. This is Soul Point to the side of TTMG, so there will be a response from SLS. They get the smite down, which at Black Mass does steal away the Hex Tech. Drake prevents the Soul from going over, flashes away, and they get out cleanly.
It's a bit of a risky flip for TTMG. I mean, they just started the Drake when the other team has all 5 members there. Yes, they have the better positioning, but they aren't able to hold on to it. And so, combined with the Syndra Burst, which at Black Mass just walks up and smites a Drake away, basically. And that is going to be really nice for SLS if they're going to try to close out this game, find a way into it. Oh, Fortune, hold on.
Oh, Scatterway finds ways of Fortune. The shutdown gets picked up by Obongo. He has more than enough damage to be able to pick out an isolated Smolder. Doesn't matter how fed Fortune is. Obongo has been on it this game.
Obongo finally finds that crucial pick, and this very strong Syndra is just going to become even scarier. Now has 4 items completed, just as Fortune does. And yeah, really cocky from Fortune, frankly. I'm pretty sure he knew Syndra was there, but just thought he could outplay, had both summoners up, but did not flash the stun, and consequently goes down in a flash.
Dwango's getting chunked down. Will use the unstoppable onslaught to get away, but the extra focus from TTMG means that SLS can move into the mid lane, takes the inhibitor tower without really getting anything in return.
Yeah, the game has just swung massively in SLS's favor as they get 1 inhibitor down, and they might look for a second. Giggity thinking about making a flank play, but SLS are just going to run out topside, and CU has to be careful getting vision here.
Yeah, the wave eventually cleared out by TTMG. They get a few turrets. The Weaver's Wall going to separate SLS, but TTMG still a decent distance away. They can't quite collapse on the separated Spire team.
Yeah, that Sivert is really useful at positioning away from the Weaver's Wall because you kind of have to predict where the team is going to run. If you throw it too far behind them, it doesn't do anything at all. And if you throw it too much towards your side of the map, then you're just separating your team from them. So being able to pop the Sivert makes it really hard to land a proper Weaver's Wall, unless the Talia is in very close proximity. And yeah, SLS get out cleanly. And now Baron's on the map. TTMG do have the position in that area for now, but it's going to be scary for them to set up the vision here. I don't know if they're going to be able to hold on to that position.
Yeah, and it's one that even if they do manage to find positioning, the setup for it, it's not exactly the easiest to take, especially these days. We've said it once already, but it is worth re-mentioning that starting it up 5v5, not exactly the most recommended thing to do anymore. I guess it never truly was, but certainly Witch at Black Mass from just a few abilities from Fortune. Jeez,
that was an auto Q. That's that. Yeah. I think that's all it was. And yeah, no armor on the Xin Zhao when Smolder and Wukong are the most fed members on the enemy team. I don't know, that could really come back to bite you.
And already taken now in a decent chunk of damage. Will heal back up off the camp, so it's not going to be a permanent fixture or a permanent, I guess, debuff, I suppose, onto Witch at Black Mass. But once again, we back away. As we said, Baron is up. The next Drake spawning in a minute and 30 seconds. It is the Hex Tech Drake that will be spawning. TTMG are on Soul Point, and when that comes back up, potentially TTMG has the extra leverage of not having to necessarily be concerning themselves with the Drake necessarily, but also equally SLS, they pick it up, move on to Soul Point themselves.
Yeah, this is going to potentially decide the game here. However things shake out, it could be a split map, one team perhaps TTMG tries to get the Drake while SLS goes for the Baron. We'll see how this plays out, but right now both teams trying to get control of the river, and Giggity's walking in.
Bongo will find Giggity, they'll target him. He'll use the clone to hop away, gets him down to half HP though with 50 seconds to go. CU is nearby to start healing this Wukong back up, so it's not as much of a concern as you would probably expect when you see a health bar getting chunked that much, especially on your jungler. There is the missing inhibitor for the side of TTMG in the mid lane. Luckily, the mid lane inhibitor is probably the one you're probably more comfortable with giving away, the one that has the least map pressure around. But SLS move on to the Baron. Witch of Black Mass hits it. They can't. No, they're not legitimately starting that one up. It's just
You gotta be careful.
Obongo finds him, finds the stun from the scatter. The weak Siu flashes away, is able to get out. I'm going to have to imagine Obongo must have not had vision on the Nami to, not use the unleashed power. Won't secure that kill, but does get 2 summoner spells out of the support of TTMG. Duking out in the top lane. Baxel definitely favored in that 1v1, but Drake has spawned. Seismic Shove finds its way onto Witch at Black Mass. Teleport comes through. Way too early from Dwango Unchained, and so the public execution cancels that away. But when the further vision on these two digging out, but my eyes drift back down to the bottom left corner of your screen. Drake is up and ready to go, now down at half HP. It's a bit hard to really tell with how small it is. The Hextech Drake is claimed by TTMG. In the process, Obongo does get a kill onto CU, and Giggity is killed in response. So the 2 kills go the way of SLS with extra push. They can look to end despite TTMG getting the Baron. Fortune is alive, has finished his recall though, and the Smolder is absolutely massive. It is the member you want alive on TTMG to be able to stop this push. He's arrived to Bongo and Baxel, especially Baxel down to about half HP. He looks to back away, and I gotta feel that SLS, they're going to continue to push on. Scatterwake finds a stun on Smith, will pop the Zanyas, but just might be a sitting duck. Domination picks up the kill onto the Talia, but the response, Witch at Black Mask gone low, will finally go down to Fortune, picking up yet another kill on the Smolder. So once again, the key targets that you want are still alive for TTMG. Fortune is hanging around, but Dwango Unchained burst out really quickly. The public execution finds its way onto Fortune. That is the exact angle that TTMG were looking for. Baxel finds the kill onto the Smolder, and so that could be all she wrote for here in game 1. Giggity goes forward, finds a double kill, now taking Obango. Domination also going to be picked up by Giggity. It's a very messy fight here around the red side base, but both Nexus towers stay up and 4 members of SLS go down, so we're still going here in game 1.
And all in all, that seems to favor TTMG pretty heavily, I'd have to think. You can see the fight here. They had the Mbessa up in the top lane, split pushing, just kind of having her way with the Scion in that 1v1, able to take the turret and the inhibitor down while he's there. But the Drake resetting here gives SLS the superior position on that objective, but it just comes down to an all-out brawl in the Dragon Pit here between the 2 junglers. You can see them fighting it out, and then Obongo chunking Fortune really low. And with these 2 kills that come through onto the support and jungle, it really looked like SLS was maybe going to be able to end the game here. But for the side of To The Moon, they are just barely able to hang on here, clear out these waves, and it's such a game of inches here. If one member steps the wrong way from either side, that could have been the game. You see that Zanya's for Mint coming in just in time to keep himself alive a little longer, and that buys time for Fortune to fire away at this Xin Zhao, able to get that 1 kill, and with that front line down, they are able to hold on a little longer. It gets pretty scary here for the side of TTMG, though. You can see how deep Dwango Unchained is. Very nearly goes down. Fortune almost gets Obongo, but the Zanyas saves the Syndra's life. And then when the Smolder goes down in the backline here, I thought SLS had it, but
same. Absolutely. I thought it was as well, but Giggity, with the extra help of the Soul as well, kind of linked there up to get that double kill. But we're back live. SLS is on the Baron. And so even though TTMG survive it and, they are scaling up, they did get the Soul. It's a bit hard for them to contest. Dwango Unchained now in the top lane. The directed camera really not doing us any favors. SLS does pick up the Baron. It doesn't look like it was contested all too heavily. So SLS now looking to find the final push to finally take game 1.
Yeah, with those 2 inhibitors down, it forces the red team to respond, and that gives SLS all the space they need to take that Baron. They have very strong wave clear, great siege potential, and Baxel is unleashed on the side lane as well. So TTMG going to need to weather the storm, and Scion ult gonna hit a wall.
Doesn't hit anybody, yeah. Not going to be the angle that they would have wanted on the side of SLS. Baxel pushing forward is again going to open up the TTMG base completely with that inhibitor. I guess not going down, but still, as you mentioned, the sieging power from the side of SLS is massive. Dwango and Chain chunked down to half HP. Finally, third inhibitor is picked up by SLS. Giggity goes forward, finds a knockup onto 3 with the Cyclone. Widget Black Mass has gone low, will pop the Crescent card, does save him a lot of damage from Fortune, but this Smolder is still healthy. This Smolder is still autoing away, dropping his abilities, not quite going to find a kill just yet, so Baxel picks up the first Nexus Tower. The second one doesn't appear to be long for the world. On the side of TTMG, they keep it up for now. The Scout of the Week finds its way down onto CU, who won't quite be killed just yet. Baxel goes in public execution, finds the Smolder. Fortune dies! Fortune goes down, but immediately Baxel is killed on the back end, which at Black Mass takes a few too many tower shots, does stay alive, importantly. And so now with no Fortune, now with no main damage threat, SLS finally take game 1 here in the first week of Titan Conqueror League.
What a battle between these two teams. They are both showing that they have serious teeth in this first game here. And yeah, I mean, I think every player got a little bit of a chance to shine here, especially on the side of the blue team. I thought Baxel, despite the scoreline looking, not necessarily super impressive, was a massive threat on the split push, found several key ults onto the back line. And of course, in the bin lane, we cannot forget Abongo, most damage dealt in the game, finding plenty of key picks themselves. But I mean, that game was on a knife's edge for so long. It was really feeling like dead even from start to finish there. Even with those 3 inhibs going down, I was not convinced until Fortune died that SLS had that game in the bag. And it's a shame because I thought Fortune played the majority of the game so well, but in those last few fights did get a little, a little too aggressive, I think, did get caught out, and going down when you're such an important member of the team ends up, giving the game away a little bit.
Yeah, and that was the one look that Skyloft Spire needed onto the Dragon, onto Fortune. I mean, really was the focal point of that game. If Fortune was around, things were looking good, mostly for To The Moon Galatea. But in the moments that it wasn't, Skyloft Spire definitely comes through. Does take game 1 in a heart attack sort of fashion. Maybe not heart attack, because I mean they did have multiple inhibitors, and even though there was that chance, especially with Fortune, that To The Moon Galatea would come back into that one. You got to feel with the base open like that. It was still largely, maybe not largely, but definitely. Skyloft Spire favored.
Yeah.
Either way,
Smolder likes those inhibs being down. That's free stacks. That's kind of his domain.
True. Yeah, but I think that we're going to send it to a break after that. Give ourselves a moment to recover and give the players the chance to get ready to go for game 2, because if game 2 is as close as the first one was, we are in for an absolute classic of a series. So don't go anywhere.
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Ayy, coming down like precipitation. I ain't never met a limitation. Hater plotting my elimination. Gotta go to Google for the information. I'm a superstar, so I gotta shine. Top dollar be the bottom line. Bottom feeding niggas out of line. Turn your heart rate to a dotted line. Yeah, my zodiac probably dollar sign. Got the energy to win it, my nigga, I'm feeling great. Got a date with destiny, focusing on my fate. I don't give a fuck what you rapping, you been a fake. I'm everything that they ain't, it can't be, it won't be. Wanna see me fall, I can't go, I won't leave. Coming from the block with plain clothes and police. Straight up to the top with bankrolls and rollies. Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Ayy, 12 can't really stop shit, so I'm still pushing like a mosh pit. Ice dripping, think I'm hot shit. In the yellow bucket with the mop stick. I've been jugging jams like wholesale. Everything must go sell. Hitting bitches with the old well. Need 100 million on the low scale. On my worst night, I'm the best nigga. Wouldn't mess with you, couldn't cap to him. Homie spotted me like 700, brought 1100 right back to him. If I can't do it, then it ain't real. I just make dollars, I don't make deals. I've been going hard in the paint, still blowing kush clouds till I can't feel like. Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
And we are back once again here for game 2 between Skyloft, Spire, and To The Moon Galatea in Titan Conqueror League. And I mean, if it was anything like game 1, strap in, buckle up. It's going to be another heart attack coming up.
It's going to be another banger on our hands. We can hope. Curious to see, if these teams are going to switch sides, if they're going to switch up their strategies, because I do feel like for the side of To The Moon Galatea, they picked both of their solo laners pretty early in draft, and I think that really hurt them in that last game. Both, giving over counterpick in both your solo lanes means, it restricts your ability to play side lane and things like that. We saw, the Mbessa getting to really shove in the Scion, and Syndra likewise getting some solo kills on Talia. So while their comp, I think, had a lot of potential, they might have to revisit that strategy a little bit going into game number 2.
Yeah, you already covered, but the counter picks definitely proved very impactful for Skyloft Spire, especially since they just kind of handed them over on a silver platter, especially with that early Scion pick. Didn't quite work out the way that Dwango Unchained or TTMG would have hoped. So we'll move into the second draft. Luckily, I guess luckily might be the right word. It is fearless, so we won't be seeing any of these champions other again. And equally for the side of Skyloft Spire, they won't have to be handling Fortune's Smolder, because as much as Obango and Baxel went off in game 1, Fortune really kept things way too close.
Yeah, Fortune had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and it felt like he almost did it, but couldn't quite pull through in the end. But still, it was a pretty brilliant showing from the side of the Smolder there. We saw some insane damage output. So yeah, but two of those really popular wave cleary scaly picks gone now. So we'll see if the ADCs are kind of on more traditional hyper carries, if we get to see something more aggressive, more poke focused. I don't know. It should be a change up in the matchups there.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the positive impacts that that Fearless has had on the competitive scene in general. The wider variety of drafts that we have typically got in through that we are still waiting on coming up. In terms of other players looking for. In terms of other ones that we're looking for to perhaps step things up a little bit in game 2, I mean, who are you looking at from Frida Potatoes? Either side.
So I'm curious to see if the Misfortune remains banned, the titular Fortune. I would expect that's taken off the table. Braum did get, I think, tapped down a little bit this patch, but if he gets through draft, I think that's a really powerful pick we could be seeing. Jinx is another popular pick that I'd be curious to see. I know Obongo also plays a lot of Hui, so that's something that I might be curious to see.
I know Dwango Unchained also plays Fiora. I would be interested to see it. I'd also be a little bit surprised if we got it, because he's not necessarily a Fiora one trick. But I mean,
if Baxel picks a tank,
a man can dream, right?
If Baxel picks a tank, I think Dwango might want to show him, what a real split pusher looks like. We get the ego coming into play there, perhaps getting to play this other side of the matchup.
And we are looking forward to that. We should, is what it sounds like, probably be getting the draft sometime soon coming up. Teams, sometimes they like to take the time getting ready for these things, but we're finally ready to go for the draft here in game 2. One of the things with Fearless is that typically we don't see a lot of changes in the bans unless if we see a change of sides, which we don't this time around. To the Moon Galatea opting to stay on red side.
Yeah, maybe they'll be trying to get some of those counter picks for themselves this time. But yeah, so far, bans looking to stay the same. Makes a lot of sense. That is one thing Fearless Draft kind of got rid of, is the reaction ban, when someone pulls out something you totally didn't know they would smoke you with, and you have to switch up your strategy around that. Instead, nowadays, you can kind of just keep the same bans. And, looks like, TTMG did ban away the Varus this time.
It's a third one, I believe.
Well, I think they might just be switching the order
because they went Diana the first time around.
Yeah,
and
so
I'm
we'll
pretty
see
sure
if
they
the
closed out with
Diana.
Varus.
is taken off the table here as well. But two Varus, I mean, he is two guys that kind of got like mushed together into one guy. So like,
yeah.
you know, maybe you have to ban one half and then the other. That would be, you know, big buff to the champion for drafting purposes. It's like ice climbers or something, you know. You got to kill them both.
Then I feel like you'd probably have to do the same thing for Kindred if that was the case. Either way, getting through the bans, Maokai locked in fairly quickly by the side of SLS.
That 10 damage buff on his Q coming through.
That's absolutely massive stuff. You know, sometimes with a few of those buffs, I wonder, it's like, did they add it just to make the patch look bigger? Which, to be fair, is a pretty impactful one. So if there wasn't one you're going to do that with, it would be this one. But getting back to the draft very quickly, these teams are going straight through the picks. Ash Braum immediately locked in for TTMG.
It's a very potent lane. You have a lot of slow potential. Braum can keep Ash safe, but they can also go very aggressive. As soon as you get tagged by the Ash ult, the Ash W, Braum Q, whatever it may be, that follow-up stun is coming very soon after. So, you know, for a squishy champion, that is pretty scary. But Melio offers a lot of peel. He's got the super mega fire kick to get Braum off of you, and he can cleanse those stuns away with his ult. He doesn't want to be the one getting caught himself, but he can definitely keep Jinx safe. Also seeing a Shen locked in here. That is a pretty popular pick these days, I feel like. The cross-map potential with the ult.
Hear me out. Giggity plays Shin.
It could be. I mean, we've seen the River Shen, the Jungle Shen in the past. I don't know how in the meta that is these days, but it is an option.
But some people do play it, and Giggity is one of those people. Flex potential, it's there. Yeah.
I mean, you want, flex picks are very nice to stop yourself from getting countered. The Maokai, of course, was also a flex pick. It's not going to be going support, but it could be jungle or top. We'll remain to see where that ends up. TTMG also banning away the Malphite. That's been a power pick in the jungle.
That's been, yeah.
I have not enjoyed playing against as many Malphite jungles as I have in the past month. But it's going to be enough Fury.
Fury.
I believe Nefiri got a buff in the jungle this patch, so that could be a Nefiri jungle, or it could be heading to the mid lane. Either way, that is another champion that I feel like just does an absurd amount of damage. It can be very annoying to face, and I think works really well as a counter pick, especially in the mid lane. SLS haven't shown their pick yet, so we'll see if they have something cooked up to respond to this with.
Anivia. Ooh.
It's going to be a very AP heavy top side for the side of SLS. So they are going to need domination to get fed on this Jinx for those late game team fights, because otherwise, it's the Fiora.
It's the I mean, I was hoping for it. I kind of soft called it, not gonna lie. I didn't really say like he's picking Fiora here. I'm not gonna give myself that much credit. But if you're into Mordekaiser, it's not one because Fiora's not really played all too much. I'm not super familiar with, but that doesn't feel all too great for Fiora. Not into, at least in comparison to, as you mentioned with the tanks, with like if Orin was locking, it doesn't feel like as ideal of an angle for this champ.
Yeah, if that was like Maokai top, I think it would be a little bit nicer for the Fiora. But I mean, that Mordekaiser E is a very telegraphed ability. She definitely has an easy window to counter that, but if Baxel holds that and kind of just is whacking away, you know, at least in the early game, I think he stands a pretty decent chance. I think if the game goes late, Dwayne should have the upper hand in the 1v1 there, but yeah, we got two picks in the jungle that we don't usually see. I don't see a ton of Maokai jungle these days, and Shen even less so. So that is going to be an interesting matchup to watch. And then, you know, in the mid lane, we've got the Nefiri kind of just all out on the damage versus the Anivia, who can withstand the damage pretty well. Has the egg, tends to build pretty tanky, and has a lot more utility to offer. So I'm very excited to see how this mid lane matchup plays out in particular.
I personally am excited for the Shin and the Fiora because these two champions are comfort picks, right? Ones that we don't see very often in their respective. Well, Fiora's top lane, but I suppose we don't see Fiora often. We don't see Shin a lot in the jungle, and it's just one that always just like tickles my brain whenever we see an enjoyer of a champion get their, I guess, iconic champion. I suppose it's like Riven and Gosh, why am I forgetting the top laner of 100 Thieves last year? Oh my god. I'm
Sniper?
Inting. Sniper. Yes, Sniper. Thank you. My god. I'm inting so hard. Wow. It's
really
not even been that long.
It really feels like, yeah, TTMG threw out the Shen pick to bait the Mordekaiser or, a similar pick and to specifically open up the Fiora angle. Yeah, I do think is going to have a pretty good time here, but there's a lot of CC on SLS. So it's not like, she has just one ability she needs to parry. The Melio can help peel her. The Anivia can help peel her. The usage of that parry is going to need to be immaculate in the team fights. But on the split push, I think that is going to be a pretty solidly won lane for Dwingo, assuming he doesn't get put behind super early, which could happen, but yeah. Also, as I was talking about how AP heavy SLS's team comp is, TTMG is full AD pretty much. So just as the itemization for both sides pretty skewed.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of options to stack the armor on the side of SLS. But I mean, for Dwango Unchained specifically, he really didn't have a great time on the Scion last time around, and so get him off a champion that, even though it's frankly not necessarily the most difficult to play, it's one that they don't really play all too much, and so put him on something that we can definitely see him as a spark in that top lane to really push things over the edge for the side of TTMG, which they will need, as they are down 1-0. So I hope Dwango Unchained can have a pretty big moment there or not even a moment, very very big performance in general.
Yeah, it'll feel good to turn things around, assuming that's how things play out. But yeah, I feel like Fiora is really one of those champions you can show your stuff on. You can pick that, and it's a big ego boost if you can pull out a win. Flex some quick combos, hit all those vitals, do it in that like record-breaking 0.26 seconds or something like that. Hoping we get to see some sort of outplay like that anyway.
Yeah, and so side of SLS, we already kind of covered a bongo on the Anivia, and another one that we didn't really we saw a large coming out like performance from them in game one, but with Syndra definitely has a lot more early pressure in comparison. As you mentioned, into the Fury, with how much pressure this dog can have early on, it'll be interesting to see Obongo like on the reverse side of what they were playing in game one.
Yeah, I mean, if he holds his distance in the early phases of the lane, should be tough for Nefiri to find those solo kills, but I think it's also hard for Anivia to take agency in this matchup pre-6. You only really have one CC tool. It's super telegraphed. Nefiri has that invulnerability to kind of just dodge away from it and attack you. So you have to be very patient in this matchup. Just try to get your items and scale. Once you're a little tankier as the Anivia, then it's a great matchup. But yeah, the early on could be, has the potential to be a little rough.
Yeah, and we will finally load onto the Rift. Took us a little this time around to finally get here, but we are for game 2 here between Skyloft Spire and To The Moon Galatea. And straight away, it doesn't look like we're going to be having as many antics as we did level 1 last time around, even though they were somewhat minimal. One thing I have spotted out is CU. I mean, he's going to get down in time, right? Yeah, surely.
Yeah, he'll make it to lane. He might not be in the forwardmost bush, but I don't think there's going to be much of a fight over brush control early on in this game. Ash Braum has a ridiculously strong level 1 in the 2v2, but the Jinx and Melio can get a decent push going themselves. They just, struggle a bit more in fighting against champions.
Jinx Melio, at the very least, will get some access later on to that bonus range for domination, keeping them at a distance away from CU and Fortune. The little bit of extra assistance on top, as you mentioned, with the ults for the Melio would help out a lot. But straight away to the top lane, we got a few glimpses of it. But if we move back, everyone's good. Dwayne Unchained getting a few really good trades early on here.
Yeah, already taking some good trades with the Fiora. Baxel does hit level 2 first, but isn't able to capitalize on it too much. Ooh, that could have been
goes
really
forward.
scary.
Level 2 gank from Rivershirt and flashes to ensure the taunt. Baxel goes low. First blood goes the way of Giggity and TTMG.
And even with the Ignite for the 1v1, Baxel still goes down. And I mean, you know, Dwango still has TP available. So that is going to be a very happy lane state for the top side level, early on here.
And we get a replay of the gank coming through from Giggity. Was not spotted at all. Baxel really not expecting it, which is even fair. We don't see a lot of level 2 ganks like this these days, but it works out in favor of the Shin. And yeah, I mean, really well done, really cleanly executed, but it has allowed Witch at Black Mass to start to move forward, try to counter jungle away, and is able to steal away Giggity's blue buff.
Getting that blue buff is nice, but I do worry that, you know, Fiora being unleashed is a whole lot scarier. And yeah, that felt like a very intentional game plan from the side of To The Moon. You could see Dwango was not hitting the wave all that much on the Fiora, even though he had a lot of access to it, had kind of put Baxel on the back foot. And so Baxel hit level 2 because his wave was pushing to the other side. And that means wave was in a position for Giggity to show up and make that play happen. So yeah, feels like that was probably the game plan, you know, from the moment TTMG loaded in, and it was executed exactly according to that.
Speaking of Ignites, Obongo also has opted to go for Ignite on the Anivia here in the mid lane. I feel that maybe Giggity shows up mid, tries to help get some extra pressure for Mint, knowing that Obongo won't be able to return all so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, people think of Ignite as an offensive summoner spell, and it is, but in a lot of matchups like this, where you're ranged into melee, it also kind of works as a defensive spell, because it's kind of a get off of me button, you know? If you have a 1v1 that would be close in the all-in, that Ignite can make all the difference, and especially if your opponent's also taking it. You don't want to be just hard losing any early fight that you take. So yes, Obongo might be missing out on the teleport for, you know, some of that wave control, but I think it's just as important to not get behind early on.
Which they are slowly starting to do. It's a little bit expected. The extra early power from the Nefiri is definitely sizable. Obongo is very low. Does still have access to the egg form, so any sort of all-in that Mint would look for would have to go through the egg as well.
Here come the
How low
junglers.
on mana Mint is, it might be a little bit more difficult. As you mentioned, Winch at Black Bass and Giggity have a ride flashing forward. Will eventually use the Twisted Advance, but Obongo's a little bit too low to follow up. The taunt doesn't land, but they do get the egg form. The Ignite finding the kill onto Mint. The respawn comes through. Egg is out. One more auto attack is all Giggity needs, but the Twisted Advance lands the snare, and Obongo gets out.
Flash Ignite from Obongo to help secure the kill. Has the egg up. That was a risky play. Only one auto off of death, as you said, but makes it work. The 2v2 for the mid jungle is winning on the side of SLS, even though you wouldn't normally expect it to win. Just a nice capitalization of the kind of state of the resources in mid lane.
Yeah, and it will help out, get them that extra bit of gold, but even though, wait, hold on, Giggity caught a little bit too far forward, which at Black Mass is very low. Ult comes down onto Obongo, goes untargetable. They're trying to get Witch at Black Mass, does find that kill. CU has also arrived. Obongo target, they go back in. There's no egg form for the Anivia. They will find the kill under their own tier 2 tower with the help of CU. TTMG picking up 2 for themselves.
2-for-1 in favor of TTMG, and yeah, it's an aggressive play from Giggity on the Shen jungle that starts it off. And I mean, mid just diving between the 2 turrets on Nefiri, that is crazy stuff. So yeah, Giggity very nearly gets that kill, but gets walled off, and then Mint goes super deep. I mean, you can see how powerful that invulnerability is.
And yeah, it goes back in. And we did get alert that Nefiri was, buffed this patch. Not one of the main targets of these buffs that were at least big talking points. But CU now gotten very low. Domination trying to auto away on the problem. Won't quite find the kill. Winter's Bite going to slow down the advance of SLS. CU is very low, and Witch at Black Mass is nearby, and the recall coming through from Giggity means that they have to back away and probably seed over this Drake. They're not going to give it away. Giggity did stop his own recall. Witch at Black Mass, not quite level 6 just yet, won't have access to that very big Nature's Grasp. They push their way in on the side of TTMG. They have equal access, but Mint's in trouble. Mint's hit by the Zap. Thompson over doing their best to save their fellow teammate, and they do. Obongo now, the target does manage to get the kill on to CU. Fortune's gone though, flashing away, but will survive. Mint now will be traded back as a result. Domination is healthy and knocked and marked by the Scryer's Bloom, so Domination gets one more autocot to find the kill, but goes a bit too far because Giggity doesn't take damage from auto attacks. Too many tower shots land its way onto Domination, so the Jinx's life is traded back the way of TTMG.
It's a battle of the resets between the Nefiri and the Jinx, and SLS overall coming away from things pretty good, but yeah, a little bit of over-aggression from the Jinx. I think they could have been happy with how that went and just started, you know, pushing in the wave, taking turret plates. Instead, goes for the solo kill, and it's baited by that Spirit's Refuge, so a little bit back for the side of TTMG. No one walks away with the dragon.
Yeah, was the exactly what my first thought was as well. Drake still unclaimed. Giggity is still on the bottom half of the map, but instead Witch at Black Mass opts for the Grubs. We'll move straight to the top half and we'll go uncontested.
And you can see Dwango's vengeance this game already coming through. It's up almost 30 CS in the 1v1. Off the back of that early gank, and just having a champion that wins pretty hard in this 1v1. Rest of the map still fairly even. Bit of a CS lead in the mid lane, of course, but yeah, TTMG overall up 1.5k, and they should be walking away with this dragon in a moment here.
Yeah, instead they look for Dwango Unchained, who will pop the ult onto Baxel. Will only need the one more vital to be able to get it. Won't quite find it. The pull just a flash away from Dwango Unchained, sent to Brazil. Will have the help of his tower, but won't get away fast enough. Baxel will get the kill in the gank.
I was a little worried that they might be able to turn around that 2v2, but hold that thought.
Seeker could be in trouble. Does pop the Breath of Life to try to get away. Does so successfully. Domination now the target of Fortune. Will find the stun from the Winter's Bite. Won't get much else from it.
Seeker forced to burn the flash, but in terms of health, SLS's bot lane not looking too shabby after all of that is done in the 2v3. So they should be able to stick around and collect this wave, but yeah, TTMG now up about 1,000 gold and that first Drake, and we should have the Grubs haven't been taken yet, right? Those are just spawning in now.
They were picked up by Witch at Black Mass. Yeah, they were in before the Drake. He moved straight to the Grubs. Giggity was on the bottom half of the map, so they do have those three. Just the trade, the classic trade, one that was perhaps a little bit more common when they were first added, when there were 6, but still. We see quite a bit. The Grubs for Drake coming through. Giggity and Witch at Black Mass do find each other. And Witch at Black Mass is taken quite low. They're both thrown over the Grub wall, and so now Witch at Black Mass flashes away back over the wall. So despite the collapsing Dwango and Mint, he is likely to get, or at least somewhere, is on the wrong side of the map. We'll look for an execute here. Will he have the time? He knows he doesn't have much for it. Comes through, won't quite find the execute, but it does give the kill over to Giggity.
Oh, Obongo gets engaged on by the
Hound's Pursuit is casted onto Obongo. Does have access to the egg, will come through, but this Mint on the dogs does have a decent amount of damage. Doesn't look like they're going to find the kill, because we move straight to the top lane. Actually, of course, we go back bot once again, stunned up with the help of CU. Not quite going to find the kill now. Straight Dwango Unchained just queues forward, finds the kill. The Stand United able to get the shield to prevent Dwango Unchained from being killed in response. We move straight to the bot lane. The Mega Fire, or the kick, the ball from Seeker, not quite finding the mark, so Fortune just kites away.
Yeah, without that kick landing, there's not much CC on the side of SLS's bot lane, and oh, Dwango is just a little too happy trying to get those turret plates. Gets executed, so no gold given over, but that is going to delay the reset. But I think he should be able to arrive in time to collect most of that next wave, nevertheless.
Yeah, it's not a fast recall at this point in the game, but I mean, it probably takes you a few seconds to walk away and get your recall off. So all things considered, it's probably about the same amount of time, if like maybe 2 or 3 seconds longer. It's just that it is an execute, so there's no gold given over to SLS, and so really no harm done. All things considered.
Harm done, but gold lead.
It looks funny.
For to the moon has gone up a little bit. They're at about 2,000 gold now in the lead, and I would expect that to continue growing. They have a team composition that feels pretty snowbally. You know, the picks you can make happen with that Nephthiri and the Ashe are quite devastating. Shen can show up at a moment's notice as well. I really feel like SLS, as this game goes on, may struggle because they don't have very many go buttons. That is, a classic problem that some teams run into. Is the only way they really have to like start a fight. Ashe from the base. Wanted to hit Obongo, but hits Melio instead.
Hey, we count those as targets hit with the Enchanted Crystal arrow. They count all the same regardless of whether the target was the one that you would have wanted. Obviously, it would have been very nice if Obongo was hit, because men absolutely could follow up on that and get yet another kill for themselves. Try to put Obongo even further behind, because they have completed the Rod of Ages, are stacking up the tier as well. And even though Obongo's not particularly strong at the present moment, he is on his way to becoming that just really hard to deal with DPS source.
Yeah, the damage dealers for SLS are not in too bad of a spot, but
Seeker, the target by the Hound's Pursuit, will flash away, and so now the response is to use the Twisted Advance by Witch at Black Mass. The Unbreakable is popped immediately. Super Mega Death Rocket going to be used, not going to find a lot of damage. Domination in trouble, getting autoed away by Fortune, taken very low. Drake is up. Domination certainly going to have to recall and get back to base, which might buy TTMG the room they need to be able to start up this Drake. They have done so, and it'll take a while for Domination to get back to really have any sort of real chance to contest this, which at Black Mass moves away, and they'll be giving it over to TTMG.
Yeah, with the Jinx chunked out with most of those ults down. Wait, why isn't anyone killing the dragon?
There we go. There
fired off by Ashe.
Oh.
Axel and Obongo both slightly in the way of that, but they don't get hit by it. And I mean, as I was saying, there's not a lot of ways for SLS to really start a fight on their terms. Maokai is the only one with the power to really just force a fight. Anivia can catch people with her wall, but unless someone's very close by, that can be dashed over. There's a lot of options for that, and so I think this is going to get hard for SLS unless they can get the Jinx or the Anivia into a state where they can just be, unmatched DPS threats. Otherwise,
and Mint will find Witch at Black Mass, but there is a collapse coming from SLS. If the Maokai can stay along long enough, Dwango Unchained flashes forward. Will look to get all those vital procs. Breath of Life keeps the members of SLS alive. And now Dwango Unchained, despite his early success, goes down very quickly, is not going to be available, but it does buy time for TTMG to get out.
That is a much needed kill for the side of SLS. And yeah, despite the farm lead, Dwango is, does have 3 deaths on the Sphere. One was, of course, an execute, but actually not too different in the KD department than this Mordekaiser. Ooh, hold on.
Nature's Grasp will be used immediately, but it does buy time for Mint to get in. He does get Witch at Black Bass low. The bird is coming through. Won't quite find the kill. All the while, Baxel gets CU. The smite comes down, gets the Rift Herald, and the eye is picked up by TTMG, but Dwango Unchained is back, has teleported in. Won't look to press any further.
And it's kind of a scattered fight from TTMG. I feel like they were, kind of all over the place. And also, Dwango, I need you to stop using the riposte when Baxel isn't throwing his E. I think that's kind of the whole point of this counter pick, is that as soon as Mordekaiser tries to use his 1cc, you just kill him. But instead, Dwango's using it for the slow a lot, which is valid. It it has an attack speed slow. It's good for the 1v1, but feel like he could be getting a little more value out of that.
And definitely looked like Dwango for a second. They've gone a little bit too far, as he's done a few times in this game, but the Enchanted Crystal Arrow gets the cleanse out of Domination immediately. Seeker doesn't have access to the Breath of Life for another few seconds either, so CU and Fortune could have a potential angle, especially with Mint roaming down.
Yeah, and we've got a little bit of a break in the action for now. 2 minutes till the next Drake. Baron also going to be spawning up in 3 minutes, but I feel like 20-minute Barons aren't as common these days because they made it harder. So next Drake probably going to be the major focal point of this game. In the meantime, players probably just going to try to farm up. Dwango maybe going to look to knock down this top turret as well. No turrets going down so far this game, so someone's going to try to claim that extra gold by taking the first one.
Bongo will get tagged by CU. The Hound's Pursuit comes through. They will eventually get the egg form, especially as Giggity is arriving. He's popped into Egg Nivea now and will not be able to respawn off that. Mint secures a kill onto a Bongo.
Bongo face checks alone and pays dearly for it. It's going to give a lot of control over the mid lane over to the Moon. And from there, I would expect them to get a lot of control around this Drake, you know, the river for this next Drake fight as well.
Is spawning in just over a minute. It would be soul point to TTMG if they do manage to pick it up. It is Ocean soul as well. One of the stronger ones in the game. You know, allows you to heal up that much more. Could be especially useful for Dwango in these side lanes, allowing him to heal up and it'll be a bit more of a menace in the side lanes. He hasn't quite super popped off so hard. Obviously, the 3 deaths hasn't helped his case, but still, at least doing pretty decently in the 1v1, and we'll get the first tower of the game. Actually pops the ult. We'll try to find the all-in onto Baxel. We'll get all 4 vitals, but taken very low by Baxel. The obliteration finds the mark. Dwango Unchained looked for the 1v1, but goes down in the process.
And I just feel like that should be a hard winning 1v1 for the Fiora. You know, you can see he feels so confident walking up to the turret, smacking that down, but becomes an engage from the Maokai.
It won't hit anybody, but it does clear out the river. It does give the space for SLS to move in. That TTMG immediately push back into. They're not going to concede this Drake by any means, but a good wall from Anivia separates out the fight a bit. Mint goes forward, and Mint's looking for a Bongo. Instead, now the taunt drops down onto Seeker, who's gone low and not quite down just yet. All the while, Domination is autoing away, which at Black Master's gone low. Fortune finds that kill, but Domination goes excited. Mint's left completely unmarked, though. Gets 2 kills quickly for himself on a killing spree. Double kill goes the way of Neferi. 3-1 goes the fight to TTMG. They're looking for a bit more domination in the eyes of Mint. The Flame Chompers will only separate Dwango, but this Neferi has the ability to hunt you down. Domination won't get away. Mint is unstoppable, and Soul Point goes the way of TTMG.
3 Drakes now claimed by TTMG, and yeah, this Neferi is really popping off in this game, just dealing so much damage when he finds those engage angles. You can see the attempt at the engage, but it's just so hard for SLS to follow up if they don't catch someone out, you know, within range of some very close range follow-up. And then you can see here, even though the Ashe ult goes wide, the Neferi goes in, has the Shen ult to help stay healthy, and then this combo of the Braum ult into the taunt forces those summoners spells out of SLS's bot lane, and from there, fight actually gets really close. The Jinx Rocket dealt so much damage, but then this cheeky brush play from Mint really brings things back for the side of To The Moon. In the end, yeah, Soul Point claimed, and a whole lot of kills as well.
Yeah, importantly, a really important one is that Soul Point. When you get back live, we'll see the exact gold deficit that Skyloft Spire are in. Quick math, they're sitting down for about 4.5K. Pretty significant lead to the side of TTMG, who have overall looked a lot better here in game 2, especially meant on the Neferi.
Yeah, Mint on the more aggressive champion this time, able to exercise a lot more agency and is doing wonders for their team. Has got the Serpent's Fang as well to reduce some of the shielding from that Mordekaiser, from that Melio. You know, Cleanse Force out of domination, but
Yeah.
nothing more found out of it. But the Asphalt is on a very short cooldown at this point. It has hit rank 2, so you know, after hitting a level 11 there. So the Jinx is gonna have to be careful in this next fight.
Melio does have access to the Breath of Life, so there is still options available for SLS to keep domination up and available for these fights. Didn't quite have the incredible pop-off moment that you see Jinx get when she gets her resets in that last fight, but it definitely looked like there was potential, and honestly, domination, another one of those players who's looked better here in game 2. I mean, in those SLS won that first game, it really was not all that much in the hands of domination, but this time around, sitting 3-2-1 on the Jinx, is starting to scale up and could potentially be, I mean, alongside Obongo, something that TTMG have to account for.
Yeah, that is something they're going to have to watch out for. If this Jinx gets a reset, if TTMG funnels into the kill box created by the Anivia, then, you know, there still is hope for SLS, but TTMG just has so many ways to force a fight on their own terms with that Ashield, with the Braum, with that Nefiri Shen combo, and Dwango trying to do his thing on the side lane. But yeah, Baxel's up a level now in the 1v1. I you know, keep waiting for this Fiora to pop off on the side lane. And he has, I mean, he's got the turret. He has, you know, consistently pushed in this Mordekaiser, but I still keep wanting to see a little more.
Yeah, 1-4-1 on the counter pick that they got for themselves with the Fiora. There have been moments, and as you mentioned, the extra pressure they have just from the map in general is not something to be written off completely. But yeah, I think generally, I mean, I was definitely looking for a little bit more from Dwango, especially after that first game where, you know, the counterpick got counterpicked and the early gank that went really wrong on the side of TTMG made it very difficult for Dwango to really have much of an impact. And so now that he was at least early on put in a position to you know, do more here in game 2, it's not been the most ideal for Dwango, is certainly a way to put it. But as you mentioned, only the Baron is up on the map, but we do have another minute for the Drake to spawn up. It is soul point to the side of TTMG, and now Dwango, I mean, he still does a decent amount of damage to Baxel.
Oh, he does
It's
a
not
lot of damage.
Completely doomed. But return
wow.
damage comes through. Baxel flashes forward, sends Dwango unchained to the death realm. Can he get the vitals in time? No, he does not. Baxel gets yet another solo kill in the top lane.
Very close to hitting that combo. There's one vital off, but the anti-heal from this Mordekaiser is doing so much work to stop Dwango from healing up and getting to play
Mint
these
has
fights
flank.
properly. Ooh, Mint has a
He's
flank, but
spotted.
could be caught out here.
Just Nefiri things, right?
Yeah.
just the Nefiri stuff.
Also,
yeah.
total tangent, but I have to wonder why Witch at Black Mass has the Merc Treads into a team that has 4 AD champions. Not that much
Before we get to
CC.
that, CU will pop the Unbreakable. Tactical Arrow finds its way onto Seeker. Breath of Life used very early, but Mint finds the angle onto the support, which at Black Mass has found too. Domination will go down, so no chance for the Jinx to get excited, but Obongo is still healthy. So another big point of damage still available to SLS, but they are backing away now. Dwango Unchained has arrived. A good separation from Witch at Black Mass. Giggity trying to get some room for Mint to eventually go in. Dwango getting burnt down. Now the Ignite ticking. Obongo picks up the kill with it. Mint in trouble. Has hopped over the wall, but can no longer go untargetable. Obliterate hits the mark. Finally will just barely able to escape, but with how low the health bars are on the side of TTMG, looking likely that they have to back away. CU has returned for this fight. They don't have Dwango. They won't have Fortune for another 2 seconds, so SLS move on to the Drake.
Which at Black Mass is low, but that shield from the upgraded Smite going to be doing a lot of work to make sure there's no cheeky play that can come in from this Nefiri. And that Dragon should be going down and stopping the stack, stopping Soul. Yeah, they're in the area, but I don't think they can take this fight.
You say that, I kind of agree with you, but some of the positioning, it was looking like they were considering it for perhaps a lot longer than maybe would have expected. They do eventually back away now, but yeah, at the very least, SLS do stop the bleeding in terms of the Drake front and will not give the Ocean Soul over to TTMG.
Yeah, they'll deny the Ocean Soul for now. Baron maybe going to be the next target on the map. We'll see who is looking for those, but yeah, it's a bit. I mean, that does show that fight. I think the weaknesses of TTMG's composition a little bit. Fortune got caught out early on and went down, and once that Ashe is off the table, their team is pretty lacking in CC. It's very hard to set up the Shen taunt when Anivia is providing those perma-slows, when Braum doesn't have anyone to like guarantee that his Q is landing. SLS can kite away. Obongo is getting a lot of value out of this Anivia pick. Even though the early game was not so great, you know, in the mid lane, the Fury just doing her thing. You can see Mint is up 60 CS over the Anivia, but I still feel like in these fights, Obongo is putting in the work to stall those melee carries. And oh, here comes Ashe ult onto. Okay.
Yeah. They were looking for domination to come through, and thank you, Shirogan, at the background saying that that's what the Merc Treads are for, despite the amount of physical damage that TTMG have. It technically did reduce the duration of the Enchanted Crystal Arrow stun, so value, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay, I'll concede that point. I'll concede that point. But Witch at Black Mass also has Spirit Visage as a second item, and that is also an MR item. And yes, Maokai likes the healing, but I still think there's better choices you could make in a game where the enemy team is so stacked on physical damage. So, if yes, it reduces there's CC out of the Ashe Braum lane, and there's a Shen taunt, so I can see the logic there a little bit. Just the Spirit Visage on top of that, I don't know. We're into some dangerous territory with Boris here.
Yeah, and sometimes Boris can be the downfall of quite a few. Dwango Unchained still applying a decent amount of pressure in these side lanes, chunking Baxel for a really solid amount, especially considering that he's 1 in 6, but fewer things. He's definitely kept ahead in the farm department and has been at least okay, at least in terms of the realm of in terms of gold. But we've got another 2 minutes until the next Drake comes up, and the state of Baron these days, we just kind of just sit and wait for these next 2 minutes, if we're being completely honest, outside of a really egregious error from either side.
Yeah, neither team has really touched the Baron. I mean, they've got some vision from both sides in that area, but no one has put up a serious effort to get that started, make a pick happen around there. So it seems like it's going to be potentially the Ocean Soul that is the focal point of this game here. We'll see if the teams try to fight it head on, or if they're going to try to do some sort of cross-map shenanigans. Because I think in a fair 5v5, things might be difficult for SLS, but the Anivia is really the wild card, I think, in these fights. If she's able to get a good value wall, get the ult placed in a good spot, and deny the engage from TTMG, things look very winnable for SLS. But on the other hand, if the damage dealers are taken out early, it can be pretty rough.
It also doesn't help that SLS are 6k gold down. Mint having a lot in their pockets, but Fortune will be tagged by the Zap, taken very low. The Unbreakable has to be popped by C to keep his ADC alive. Domination's auto won't quite find the lethal mark onto Fortune, but they do get the barrier out of the Ashe.
That Jinx with that rocket range, with the cozy campfire adding onto that even more, and the Ardent Sensor is able to pump out a lot of damage. I mean, Fortune was 1 zap off of death there. Nice little juke to stay alive, but it was inches away from a free kill going over to the Jinx. And if that happened, TTMG would have lost another shot at Soul. As it is, though, Fortune getting to walk back into mid, try to defend this turret, but it's a little bit split from his team. And it looks like SLS is going to use that opportunity to get themselves a turret back and to try to continue contesting around this Drake.
Will do. Taunt finds its way down onto Witch at Black Mass. Mint waiting in the wings to try to find a flank onto a Bongo or any of the backline members. Domination is the target, but he's healed up and shield won't matter. Mint does so much damage. The Hound's pursuit securing a double kill for the Neferi. Fortune left completely okay. It is an incredible flank angle from Mint, and with how far ahead this Neferi is, there is no hope for SLS.
Mint is just specifically built to delete that SLS bot lane, has the Serpent's Fang to make Emilio's shielding useless, has so much raw damage from that Champion's Kit to delete Domination, and yeah, barely even needs the team, has Gigady's ult to help, you know, get the shield, but in the end, it looks like TTMG might be walking away with both objectives. I see Dwango is also trying to get the Drake done down there on the bot side, but there is a Mordekaiser in the area.
No. And we'll know that Neferi was sent to the Baron. We don't quite have vision of the Dragon health just yet. Recall is coming
it's going
through.
Down slow.
Okay, it's okay. There's no shot. All right.
Jinx
so yeah,
rocket
it
maybe?
is potentially 15k. No, it was way too late. Even if there was an opportunity. So yeah, it is the Baron and the Soul going the way of TTMG off of a really excellent fight from started out by Mint.
Yeah, despite the gold lead that TTMG had, it felt like the game had stalled out a little bit, but Mint on the Neferi explodes things back into TTMG's favor. With that 8,000 gold lead and the soul they now have, they should be able to work towards closing this game out. Still have to be careful not to give over any free kills, because losing a member at this stage of the game gives a lot of time for SLS to keep farming up, keep neutralizing that gold lead. So yeah, I want to see TTMG kind of just buff these waves up, hit those turrets. Don't need to do anything too crazy. Just sync up your waves so that they're hitting at the same time, because Obongo, Anivia is one of the few champions in the game that can really handle minion waves with ease. Or not super minions and Baron buffed minions alike with ease.
Yeah, wave clear. Yeah, you know, they've got the wave clear, which they're using now. Dwango and Chain going to try to find a way onto Bongo. Ult is dropped onto the Anivia. Doesn't have access to the egg form. Flashes away. So no extra mobility for the side of Obongo. See you in a little bit of trouble. Is target does pop the Unbreakable to try to get away. Nature's Grasp finds the mark. Glacial Finger finds way to multiple members with the Twisted Advance follows. See quite the distance. Brahm's gotten very low, but is still alive and all right. Domination not going to be able to get excited off, and all the while Dwango Unchained left alone once again to push in the inhibitor. They'll start to open up the base a little bit more on the side of TTMG. Now straight over to the bot lane. Mint going to get targeted by Baxel. And we'll have to flash away for now, but is in the death zone. Does get hit by the Obliterate, and so the shutdown goes the way of Baxel. But all the while in the mid lane, they're losing the rest of the base. Domination immediately deleted by the unpermitters of TTMG. Baxel will be the target of the ultimate from the Pure. They find the kill. Giggity the one to pick that up. So now Seeker and Witch at Black Mass are the only two members of SLS left alive for the next 30 seconds. They can't do much on their own. So as it stands, TTMG will send us through to game 3.
TTMG fighting back after that first game. You know, it was both of these games so far have been very back and forth, but it felt like this time around TTMG had a much more solid grasp on how they wanted to draft, how they wanted to execute that draft, and they pulled through in the end. Even with the top lane, you know, I think not really going according to plan. Baxel was pretty huge on that Mordekaiser, despite the losing matchup. We saw him take out Mint all by himself at the end, but the Neferi is not the only threat on the side of the red team this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably the best picture we could have moved over to. Is Dog and the Fury really did pop off in that one. Was not asleep at all from Mint, and in general, even though for a little bit there, it was looking like it could have stalled that maybe Skyloft Spire had maybe they were able to stall things out a bit, were able to keep things alive. You know, the one big fight from To the Moon Galatea, picking up the Baron and the Ocean Soul off it, was just too much for Skyloft Spire to handle.
Yeah, and looking at the post game now, you can see Dwango again, despite the KD not looking impressive, did the most damage to champions in the game,
Yeah.
was constantly applying pressure to that Mordekaiser, forcing him back, taking down those turrets. So, you know, I've been flaming him a little low key, but I do actually need to shout out, despite some of the small errors, overall, I think was still a major factor in how TTMG was able to win this game, just, you know, shutting down a lot of the mobility, a lot of Mordekaiser's ability to, you know, ult other targets in these fights and exert his influence on the map. He was really stuck answering this Fiora most of the game, even if he did find a few solo kills.
Yeah, and so with that, we are going to be sending it to a break. But when we come back, we will be in for a decisive Game 3 here between Skyloft, Spire, and To The Moon Galatea in Titan Conqueror League. So we'll be seeing you after a short break. Don't go anywhere.
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Ay, coming down like precipitation. I ain't never met a limitation. Hate plotting my elimination. Gotta go to Google for the information. I'm a superstar, so I gotta shine. Top dollar be the bottom line. Bottom feeding niggas out of line. Turn your heart rate to a dotted line. Yeah, my zodiac probably dollar sign. Got the energy to win it, my nigga, I'm feeling great. Got a day with destiny, focusing on my fate. I don't give a fuck what you rapping, you been a fake. I'm everything that they ain't, it can't be, it won't be. Wanna see me fall, I can't go, I won't leave. Coming from the block with plain clothes and police. Straight up to the top with bankrolls and rollies. Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Ay, 12 can't really stop shit, so I'm still pushing like a mosh pit. Ice dripping, think I'm hot shit. In a yellow bucket with the mop stick. I've been jugging jams like wholesale. Everything must go sell. Hitting bitches with the oh well. Need 100 million on the low scale. On my worst night, I'm the best nigga. Wouldn't mess with you, couldn't cap to him. Homie spotted me like 700, brought 1100 right back to him. If I can't do it, then it ain't real. I just make dollars, I don't make deals. I've been going hard in the paint, still blowing cush clouds till I can't feel like. Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
Oh.
And we're back in time and ready to go for game two. Jeez, I'm not in time. Wow, game 3 between Skyloft, Spire, and To The Moon Galatea here in the Titan Conqueror League. And it's been one hell of a series so far, Freedom Potatoes, man.
Yeah, it's been back and forth, bangers both games. We saw TTMG fighting back very strongly last game off the back of a huge Neferi performance out of Mint, really getting revenge on Obongo for that game number 1. So, going into game number 3, draft's going to be changing up again, and it's really anyone's series at this point. Both teams have shown we have the power to take a lead and use that lead to close out a game, but yeah, anything is up for grabs going in here.
Yeah, especially I think my eyes are cast straight to the mid lane as, I mean, in game 1, Obongo really did go off there, and is largely because of that early advantage in the matchup with the Syndra. And then in game 2, Mint as well got the early advantage from the Neferi over the Anivia, and it really paid off both times for the two teams. So I think we should look for it here in game 3 is absolutely on these two mid laners and how these two teams and what champs they give to these players to facilitate their success.
Yeah, seems like in these games, the more aggressive picks have kind of been working in favor of these teams. Not as much quarter given to like the kind of slow scaling style of composition. Seems like, at least from what we've seen in these games this season, you want to, really try to take that early lead and follow through on it instead of hoping the other team is, too slow to close things out and that you just get to become your best self, your strongest version of yourself. We'll see if that pattern holds for game number 3, though. Maybe we'll see some Aurelion Soul or something that scales forever, and that'll get its time to shine.
I did not see too much A Soul.
I don't actually think they play it.
I didn't see it in the wheelhouse of either Obongo or Mint. So I doubt it. But we will officially get underway here in the draft. TTMG moving over to the blue side, or well, actually more correctly, yes. Skyloft Spire opting to go to red side here in game 3.
So, counter picks have kind of been the name of the game here. It's felt like game number 1, we saw both the Ambessa and the Syndra getting a lot of value. Game number 2, the Fiora was a big counter pick. I'm trying to remember the order of draft because I don't have it pulled up. I think the Anivia was actually a counter pick to the Neferi, but the Neferi still kind of popped off, unless I'm mistaken.
We'll get back to you on that.
We'll get back to that.
In the meanwhile, we still fans staying identical to how they have been in games 1 and 2. It's one of the things when you change sides in Fearless, though, is that sometimes things open up a little bit more for you to first pick away if you want to ban away something else. Specifically, as Rise now will be taken off the board.
That is new. And I mean, he is a strong champion in this season. He gets a lot of value out of some of those mana items. You can stack tiers more than ever before. So makes a lot of sense to ban him away, and suggest they might be looking to play something kind of up the assassin alley in that mid lane. But it's going to be the blind pick Ornn for TTMG. I mean, he's a staple top laner, has a lot of utility, does surprising amounts of damage, gets really tanky, but considering how some of these matchups have been, also feels a little risky. That said, a lot of his counters are off the table. I mean, I think, Gwen is a classic Ornn counter. Yeah. She's banned. The Ambessa, I think, can do pretty well into it, but that's gone. Mordekaiser and Fiora both taken out last game. So look at, it's going to be the Dr. Mundo picked up. He can kind of ignore some of that CC. Also gets to be really tanky, gets to be a big side lane threat. But he needs a little bit more time to come online. So it could also be Mundo jungle. We'll see where they end up sending that for the side of SLS. But Xayah Kaisa going to be the 8 bot lane matchup here. That's a throwback to 20?
I know, 2018.
18, yeah.
19-ish, 18, 19 with Leona. If we get Rakan, oh my god. it will actually be the throwback of all time.
Please pick the Rakan just for the. I mean, it's they have
Like-
synergy, like you know.
Like genuinely, what year is it if we get Zyrakan? We get Poppy, which I mean we still might have a Rakan angle because you know Poppy is flexible, but I don't think it would be a bad option for support either. With you know the Leona, she only wants to go in, you know press W and then completely negate anything they want to do on the side of TTMG, but. There's still options available. Mid laners now the targets of both TTMG and SLS with Akali, geez, wow. Start with A, and Hui taken off the board.
Kiana as well. So SLS maybe sniffing out the potential for another assassin to come through from Mint and
Mint
trying to get that
plays
off the table. And then, Yone ban. Interesting. I feel like Yone hasn't been as present in the meta, but still is quite potent in the right hands. So TTMG not wanting to see that, but we'll see where these picks end up going. It's another anti-dash champion in the Cassiopeia picked up. So the Leona gonna be having a bad time, but I feel like none of these champions for TTMG are solely reliant on the dashing. So we'll see. Hey, Asol. I didn't know they played
There's
it.
no shot.
I didn't know they played that
no
champ.
shot.
I thought I was capping before, but yeah, the Fiora prediction last game, and now Asol.
Well, honestly, it looked like
up.
the Fiora prediction. It's something that Dwango plays. I've not seen Mint play much of Asol at all. So
I think they're listening to the cast or something and they're just trying to make us look good. But yeah, I don't see the Asol in Mint's like op.gg or anything.
Yeah.
It's certainly a bit of a surprise.
Wait, hold on. Wait. We need to lock back. We need to lock back in because Veigar's locked in R5 for SLS with the Cassiopeia already being picked.
Okay, so
Cast top?
Cast top, Mundo jungle, Veigar mid, Poppy support would be my guess.
Maybe that.
Veigar, I mean, Veigar's seen a little bit of play as a counter engage support, so that's also an option.
Support
with like Cast mid,
feels,
and then Mundo Poppy can in both top jungle.
I feel like Cast top would probably be the best angle because you're playing into the Ornn, and it just generally feels like it's the champion that could put the most consistent damage down, and it is a Cassiopeia top for Baxel. I mean, I know this guy plays AP top laners quite a bit with the Gwen and the Aurora a lot in his op.gg, but I mean, Cassiopeia is not a I guess permutation that I would have expected in general.
Yeah. But SLS has a ton of zone control, a lot of ways to stop TTMG from going forwards, and with as aggressive as a team as TTMG has built, I think that's going to be really effective. I mean, you got to be careful about going into, the Xayah Feathers, Poppy's W, the Veigar Cage, and the Miasma from the Cassiopeia. All of those things can really, screw you over if you dive in to the wrong spot. But on the other hand, if TTMG is playing around the vision well, they can easily set up picks. They've got a lot of CC, a lot of engage, a lot of damage. So I mean, I think SLS has a very unique draft here that has a lot of potential to pop off, but TTMG also has the, if they get ahead, I think they're going to be able to keep their foot on the gas, and that's going to be pretty scary.
Yeah, and late on, I mean, Asol is as well. We talked about it. The infinite scaling, the amount of range that this guy can get, it becomes really difficult to be able to stop him, especially with really a lack of options that SLS does have to go. And obviously, they really do like you running at them, and TTMG does want to go at them. But if things go on a bit too long, it's going to be really hard to manage Mint on the Asol if they're just they'll just have that much space to just do Asol things.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets the stack up, the Q is going to be at such long range, and yeah, there's only one primary engage, and that's the Poppy, and she doesn't always love being the only one going in. She kind of wants someone to help, follow up on that and finish off the enemy champions when she does. And I think the Veigar is a good pick into the Asol. I mean, Asol kind of has to stand still to deal damage, which means Veigar gets to hit skill shots for free. on him, but it's yeah. Once the game goes on, I think that actually can still be a decent matchup for the Aurelion Soul. Just early game, I'd expect Obongo to get the upper hand. Has opted for the first strike, which I think is kind of challenging to to optimize into the Ace Soul, because it's so easy for him to break that. If he throws down that black hole or hits you with just a single tick of that Q, you're going to lose that rune. So, maybe not my rune of choice for that mid lane matchup, but still is going to get a lot of value, if he's able to play out of vision or just get, time it around the enemy CDs.
And bonus gold field. I mean, of course, right on command.
Yeah,
exactly. Play out the way. Just a good demonstration. Thank you, Mint, for giving that to us on the perfect timing for that. But I don't know why this stuck out to me. Well, obviously the way it did. It did just bother me when I saw it, though. Is that we didn't quite update the patch number in the draft this whole time. It was saying 20. It was saying the 0.2, 16.2. Yeah, and I noticed it right before we went over, and I was trying to move on the best of my ability, but it was too much because we have time these days early on, since we don't really have any sort of too many shenanigans that go down at level 1.
Baxel getting a surprise, or Dwango getting a surprisingly good trade onto Baxel, rather, with the Q from the
Goss comes down. This is actually a really good angle for Dwango, able to just walk up to Baxel, get the brittle proc down, and Baxel already having to use the exhaust early on.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a melee
exhaust too, what the heck?
Yeah, I don't necessarily understand the exhaust pick, because there's not a lot of high burst threats on the side of TTMG. Maybe the Kai'Sa if she ults in on you, but everyone else on that team, I think you could, they can kind of wait out the exhaust to throw the rest of their damage down. So that's a choice that, is a bit strange to me.
And also the Ornn does, if he can't get the brittle perk, does true damage. And so we saw the exhaust there. It really didn't do anything because, Bellow's Breath makes you, what's the word? Uncc'able, and so he's not really slowed at all by it, and then doesn't have the damage reduction, so it...
which at Black Mass?
It's a bit of an odd choice. Giggity will find out which at Black Mass needs time to really get health on this Mundo. The Baby Cage will find the stun, but the follow-up from Mint secures the first blood for TTMG.
Which at Black Mass waiting in the enemy bush. Oh, hold on. There's a bit of a scuffle bot, but not going to turn into too much. Yeah, that aggressive positioning on the Mundo is also a bit puzzling to me, because you do not win that 1v1 versus Volibear at all. Maybe he was hoping that Volibear would take the other path to that crab and could kind of, dodge away from him if he showed up, but instead is just waiting at such close range that Volibear is able to sneak around the corner and get an immensely winning trade. And then Mint, of course, just flies through, finishes that kill off, despite the best efforts of Obongo to stun up the Volibear. So, yeah, first blood very early on, onto that Aurelion Soul, going to be accelerated nicely in this early game.
Could also very well be a double scuttle going the way of TTMG and Giggity. The extra pressure they had from the mid lane getting that kill forced Obongo to really back away, and with the extra pressure they have from the all-in here in the bottom lane, the push that they've had, so gives the extra camps to Giggity. We'll be looking to, utilize this higher early presence from this Volibear.
Yeah, that champion has a lot more ability to exert pressure in the early game, and I would expect that to convert into, some dragon stacking potentially for the side of TTMG. Because I do think that Mundo can become a problem if he gets to, farm up. But yeah, TTMG, with that early lead, should be able to keep the foot on the gas, I think. That could be a little scary for the side of SLS.
Is recalling now. We'll see what he gets. First back does get the Blasting Wand and that extra bit of ability power. Albeit, the Sky Splitter was nerfed on this current patch, so won't be doing nearly as much damage with that. But I mean, it's still a pretty solid first item. Giggity now spotting out Witch at Black Mass again. Spy Splitter will get the slow, but the Forge God will be called and get the kill onto Witch at Black Mass, who once again gets way too aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not Mundo's win condition. Your goal is not to get hyper aggressive and put the enemy jungler behind. Your goal is to, hit 1 or 2 items and then you can start going where you please. But that's, you got to unlock that part of Mundo's kit through levels and through the golden. Oh, engagement!
Flash over the wall from CU. The flash response from Obongo won't get away from the Zenith Blade, so this Veigar is starting to burn down, but the tower shot does dissuade CU and Mint from pursuing any further damage.
Both summoner spells committed by TTMG's support and does not get the kill, but does get the flash out of Veigar. And with that cooldown burnt, he might be open to a dive if Giggity hits level 6 or something like that. I think Aurelion Sol is still in a very happy spot in this matchup, shoving into Veigar. But yeah, both scaling champions in the mid, still not doing too shabby for themselves.
Oh, and the extra kill does feel good with that extra gold, which did use to get the giant spell, giving that extra survivability with the health to really feel safer in that mid lane. But all the while, Drake has spawned on the map, is ready to go and available.
They see Volibear up topside on the blue buff too. That could give SLS an opportunity to look for this, but their take is pretty slow with that volley or with the Mundo on just the giant spell and level 6 it by fortune.
Yeah, CU will find the Zenith Blade. Seeker will be taking down half HP. It's a good recall of the feathers to get CU also somewhat low. Witch at Black Mass has started up the Drake. She did mention they did see Giggity on the opposite side of the map, but it does look like the call from TTMG to just give it and put Witch at Black Mass even further behind with the counter jungle.
I think the first Drake being Chemtech Drake, not super impactful. Obviously nice to start dragon stacking or deny the stacking that TTMG might look for. But yeah, the XP and the gold that Volibear is getting out of this play is going to be huge in the long run. He's up 20 CS over his counterpart in the jungle there. So Volibear is a champion that has the potential to absolutely take over games and be a bit of a 1v9 machine. And SLS are going to have to watch out for that. Plating going over to their bot lane.
With the Dusk and Dawn changes on this patch, even though the damage was nerfed slightly, the passive of stacking up the auto on-hit effects quickly is still there, and it does make you a little bit more tanky. And so I've seen in some spaces say that it's actually kind of a buff to Volibear in that regard for this first item as well, which he's well on his way to completing.
I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. For tankier champions that build this item, that does seem like a buff. Maybe not as much to someone whose goal is to assassinate someone with it, but if your goal is to have extended fights and keep that healing up, yeah, Volibear is pretty happy with that change. And Volibear is also going to be pretty happy to get these Void Grubs, trading an objective on the other side of the map, as Witch at Black Mass is going to try to steal away some camps. This time probably won't be punished for it, but is spotted by the TTMG bot lane, and they're thinking about collapsing.
They're pushed in. They do have the help of Mint arriving. Obongo does have access to teleport should he choose to use it. Walking back to the lane. Just wasn't really much of an angle for TTMG to truly punish Witch at Black Mask for counter jungling. So we'll get a little bit closer for get himself back level with Dwango Unchained is going to be exhausted. Called for drop going to be used. The ult not quite going to hit Dwango Unchained, but it just won't matter. Baxel is able to stand at arm's length away from the Ord and get the solo kill for themselves.
That is an unfortunate whiff on the call of the Forge God. If that lands, I think there's a pretty good chance Dwango finds the solo kill there. Although Baxel did have flash available, and Giggity just narrowly missing the window of stopping that recall and getting a kill over for himself.
Yeah, it was definitely one that when you're sitting in the bush recalling, you see the jungler run at you, you're low health, you're like, please don't check the bush. It's like a horror movie almost with it. You see your life flash before your eyes, but luckily Baxel is able to get out, is going to start scaling up, already had the tier, well on their way to completing the Rod of Ages. Not quite there just yet, but looking to be this late game scaling threat with that itemization.
Rod of Ages completed in the mid lane. Ryla is completed for the Aurelian Soul. Not as much of a, raw damage item, but keeping people in your queue does help with the DPS a lot. So yeah, despite the early kill going over to that ASOL, both mid laners a little ahead of the pack in the gold department.
Also on their first items. Though Obongo really won't get the full effect of the Roa for another few minutes. But for now, that won't really matter all too much. There's not really much on the map available for them to truly fight over. The next one coming up will be the Drake, spawning in just over a minute.
See footwork from Mint to dodge away from those skill shots inside of the cage. And yeah, it's Aurelian Soul, like I said before, needs to stand still to deal damage. So as when Veigar has that threat onto you, you're kind of forced to run away unless you can just out DPS him, which is gets to be quite a challenge when Veigar has a lot of AP.
Yeah, stacking up that phenomenal evil power as well as the Stardust. And so we just got a little short view in the mid lane. Mint is running low on mana though, so certainly going to be not as easy in that regard. And yeah, just going to recall.
Stun is on the Leona.
From the event horizon does come down. We'll eventually move back over to it. The Eclipse does give Leona quite a bit of tankiness. So CU only drop down to half HP. Teleport comes through from mid. Solar Flare lands its way down to Obongo. Immediately flashes away. Is unable to survive as Fortune follows through with the Killer Instinct. And now Mint gets a second kill on to Seeker. CU survives. Double kill for the A-Soul. Domination going to break the blast cone, but it won't do anything to get their way off of Mint, and that's a triple kill for the Dragon in the mid lane.
Aurelian Soul is going to be a problem this game. It is inevitable. We can see the teleport in here after the aggression from the side of SLS. They get caught on the re-engage, and I think that Sky's Descent. Well, no, not the true Sky's Descent. But the Aurelian Soul ultimate hitting all 4 members that were there. I think 3 members, 4. Anyway, yeah, it was 4 of them there, and yeah, he walks away with a triple kill for his efforts. They tried to capitalize on that back timer, but teleport comes in pretty quick, and Aurelian Soul can fly right at you. Still hasn't gotten to recall, so we'll see. He might have like a full item off of this reset almost. That was a lot of gold that went into the mid laner's pocket there, and Obongo might be in trouble.
A little bit more if CU can find the Zenith Blade onto Obongo. Lands now, holds onto that one patiently, but Witch at Black Mass is nearby, as you said. There's yet to recall on the side of Mint. Obongo's taken very low. Will throw up the Event Horizon to prevent Giggity from running further at them, and it'll keep him alive, and finally look to recall.
Rod of Ages makes that Veigar just tanky enough to live, together with the help of the Event Horizon and his teammates starting to show up. So he will live to fight another day, gets the teleport into mid, and should be able to collect some more farm. But yeah, I'm looking to see what Mint buys on this reset. TTMG making their presence known up towards the top side. Herald will be spawning soon, so they're trying to establish some vision there, show some presence, and probably look for that objective as soon as it's available. But Fortune's been left alone in the bot lane for now, still able to fend for himself just fine.
Yep, and not really falling all too far behind. Is back in terms of farm, but does have that extra kill. Fortune is stunned by the Audacious charge, but as you mentioned, the A-Soul is here. Fortune gets the kill onto Seeker, but it's immediately traded back. Domination will be the one to claim it. Apparently it was a shutdown as well.
Keeper's Verdict just... yeah, so powerful. Knocks the Aurelian Soul away. And so even though he gets the ult off, it's, basically a 2v1 onto Fortune. Gives over a little bit of a shutdown. And yeah, that's a much needed gold for SLS. They are still down a little, about 1,500 gold. But if they find a fight that they like, that gold lead is certainly... it's not insurmountable. They really need Witch at Black Mass to start hitting the item spikes here. That Mundo is getting close to that first item, but hasn't gotten it yet. And Rift Herald has spawned.
Yeah. CU and Seeker will know that they've both roamed over for this neutral objective. Neither mid laners have teleport as they are on the bottom half of the map, so they will be non-factors in this fight. But Called Forge God will come through. Baxel has to flash away from the second cast of it. It's a good petrifying gaze, but it won't be enough. Giggity brings the storm, gets the kill onto the top laner of SLS, and they move straight onto the Rift Herald.
Flash, ult, and exhaust burnt by Baxel, and it's not enough to get him away from the amount of CC that this Ornn Volibear pairing has. Called the Forge God sets up a big play, and that should be Rift Herald going down over to the side of TTMG to extend their lead a little further in this game.
Yeah, help them get a few other plates and start to bust open the towers and, you know, get more map control as well, allowing them to push further into SLS territory and, you know, deny them even more gold, start to choke them out, especially as Mints on this Aurelion Soul has been pretty big impact, had a pretty big impact on this game with a champion that is only going to get stronger as time goes on.
Yeah, I'd be worried about that if I was in SLS's shoes. They do have, you know, the Poppy and the Vega are great champions that can punish a mispositioning from the Aurelion Soul, but so far we haven't seen that come to fruition. He does have those upgraded Mercury's Tread, so gonna be even harder to pick off. That CC is not gonna last as long, and you get that magic damage shield. And there's a decent amount of magic damage on the top side for SLS, so a lot of value in those boots. Axel, it's been a while since we really got to look at that matchup, but he's starting to get some nice trades down.
Is a little bit far forward, but Mint and Giggity are nearby, so you're having to flash away to get out. No summoner flash available for the Leona, but all the while Fortune will find an isolated domination, chunks him down to just over half HP. You have the Drake spawning in 20 seconds is the reason for this giant gathering in the mid lane. Teleport now coming through from Mint will be arriving to this fight. Hasn't quite finished his second item just yet. Bongo the target. Won't quite fully be able to burst him down. The Rift Herald summoned up in the mid lane, going to be used as a point of pressure for SLS to respond to get TTMG, the positioning in the river for the Drake that has spawned on the map. Now, Giggity and CU, they're all waiting in that banana bush, hoping for an isolated member, walking a bit too far forward. Won't quite wait for that death bush, and they turn on to the Drake. They take it pretty quickly. There won't be a response from TTMG for SLS.
Yeah. SLS, yeah, not going to contest that. I think they know they're on the back foot right now in this game. They still need more time to hit some of those spikes, let those Rod of Ages, you know, fully complete the stacking. Ooh, but there might be a 4-man dive on Obongo here.
And the Stormbringer means that there's going to be no help from the tower. Mint gets his 5th kill of the game, completely unstoppable. Nothing Obongo can do there. TTMG pick up yet another kill.
That felt like overkill, but, you know, you got to make sure the enemy mid laner doesn't get any chance to live
About
there.
sending a message.
Yeah. It does mean that Domination is going to be able to pick up a couple turret platings in the mid lane off of this shove, and that will be some nice gold for the red side ADC, but ooh, are we going to see a 2v3 fight here?
Giggity's just slowly walking towards them. They're waiting for Mint to arrive, in which he does now. The Keeper's Verdict charging up. Wilson, the A-Soul away. So any hope that TTMG had to find a few kills is sent away with them.
Aurelion Soul waiting in the wings, turns that fight into TTMG's favor. There, you know, nothing too major burn. Ignite down from the Leona, flash down from both junglers, but no one gonna find any kills. It's kind of just a show of force, and I forget if the Kai'Sa or if the Xayah did, and yeah, okay, so another turret plating going the way of SLS. Gonna, you know, yeah, again, they need gold on those carries, otherwise they're really gonna struggle to get through that front line that TTMG has. I mean, Ornn just gets so many resistances. The Volibear is going to be healing immensely, and Leona has a lot of tankiness for a support. So they need this Xayah in particular to be able to deal with that, because Veigar's a little more burst oriented, and he's going for a pretty low damage build here. Looks like it is going to be the Banshee's Veil second, or at least this component. We'll see if he finishes that or goes for something a little more damage heavy, but in any case, yeah, this Veigar not going to be exploding people anytime soon. Still needs a lot of time to truly come online.
Listen, we'll be almost at the fully stacked Rod of Ages, but as you mentioned, not really looking to opt into a lot of burst early on just yet. But talking about dominations, you did mention them, is quite ahead in the CS department over Fortune, sitting on 2.5 items on the Xayah, and CTMG really want to run at you with the composition they've had, but Xayah as an ADC really thrives in those sorts of situations. If he can, get a few of these items under his belt, perhaps it maybe could be the thing that SLS need to push these fights over the line that really haven't gone their way so far.
Yeah, 2 items on Cass is big. Still waiting for some of those item spikes to come through from, the Mundo is quite behind the Volley Bear at this point. And even with those 2 items, Ornn up there, still able to trade blows with Baxel if he oversteps. Spacing needs to be immaculate from that Cassiopeia. Ooh, engage onto the...
Yeah, so he's going to look to try to find Witch at Black Mass. He's really not all that tanky just yet. Keeper's Verdict not going to find anybody. The Audacious Shelf gets Fortune away, but there's really no follow-up on it. 2 quick kills go the way of TTMG.
That Kaisa deals so much damage with the completed Kraken Slayer and the Rage Blade. You can see every time that passive proc comes through, Witch at Black Mass's health bar is just dropping so much. And yeah, with the pick onto the enemy jungler and AD carry, Baron's going to be started up by TTMG. Veigar could try to steal. He has some burst, but yeah, still isn't that massive nuke threat. So getting pretty low.
Seeker was spotted. Doesn't have access to the Keeper's Verdict, so there's no shot that they can ult Giggity away. And, well, even though they tried to maybe find a way in, there's really no real opportunity for them to steal it.
And, it is worth mentioning that Riot has made it even harder for non-junglers to steal objectives, because when you have that fully upgraded Smite, it's dealing even more damage this season than in the past. So some of those dream steals from like a Syndra or a Veigar are, harder to pull off nowadays. But, it is the Baron going down. SLS is able to trade back 1 turret, but that is a mere pittance in comparison to the gold that TTMG should be able to squeeze out of this Baron. Still, they are a little desynced on their resets here. Looks like mid lane will be the target of this siege, and I can't imagine that SLS will be able to hold on to this for very long. They don't have...
They're looking to... Giggity! Yeah, he's fast enough. It looked for a second that maybe the Event Horizon would have maybe tagged him, but he's fine. Drake is also on the map, and once again, there's not really much SLS can do to contest this one.
Looks like they might try to cross map onto the Ornn, but that is a very tanky guy. They're gonna need the, he has stacked up mostly magic resistance, so domination on the Xayah might be able to deal a lot of damage, but they're gonna call off the play, go back to mid, and yeah, TTMG just walk away with a dragon for free and have started chunking out these inner turrets.
Yeah, it really goes completely unanswered from the side of TTMG. I mean, obviously the vision from SLS was to cross map, but they got halfway there, realized and thought that they couldn't do it, and so it takes them a lot of time to come back. They cede even more of their own map. Their entire bottom side jungle was cleared away. Witch at Black Mass won't be picking up any more gold, and so even though Dr. Mundo, we've seen some late game Mundos, he's nowhere near that point despite being 24 minutes in, and it's just it's starting to feel really dire for SLS if you hadn't considered that to be the case already.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 6,000 gold lead, and
Witch at Black Mass in trouble. The Killer Instinct will hit the mark. Fortune will get the kill. Baxel in trouble. The Stormbringer won't quite go forward enough to find the kill onto the Cassiopeia just yet. Obonga will get the Inner Horizon onto Giggity, but does no damage at this point.
I mean, that one of the things you really have to consider when you're drafting a team composition is like who is winning their lane and who has kill threat and is able to take over the early game. And this time around on the side of SLS, it really feels like no one. I mean, the bot lane can win if Leona's too aggressive on engage and something like that, but Cassiopeia and Veigar and Mundo, all 3 of them need plenty of time to really come online and eat through the health bars of these tankier members. And so it feels like just so much was given over in the early game because there's not synergy per se in those champions, you know? Mundo needs someone that can really
collapse
help.
onto Mint. The Event Horizon not going to tag out the Aesol, so he's out. Dwango Unchained doesn't quite move as fast though, but he's got the assistance from Mint to ensure that SLS cannot push any further down onto this isolated pair.
Mundo is just struggling so much with this Aesol pick in particular because he has immunity to the hard CC, but the amount of slowing that Aesol does, Mundo doesn't really get any help with that. I mean, I guess he has the Swifties, but it's not enough to get through the black hole when there's all of that follow-up damage on the side of TTMG. And yeah, it feels like there's not, you know, I maybe should have talked about this more in the champ select phase, but there's not direct synergy between many of the champions on the top side for SLS. So it was really hard, I think, for them to get off on the right foot this game. And now they find themselves in a hole where, you know, yeah, maybe if they were able to have that dream team fight at 40 minutes, they'd be in a great spot. But as it is now, they might not make it there.
Giggity will find a Seeker who had used the Hex Gates to go forward. Luckily, this Poppy is still somewhat tanking. There wasn't a lot of follow-up. It's one of those dangers of using the Hex Gates that you don't really run into all too often, but just keep in mind, for any viewers out there, just, you know, be careful with the Hex Gates sometimes. They can, for some scary surprises for you. Luckily, it didn't cost Seeker and SLS too much, but looks slightly dangerous, and we buy time now because next objectives are respawning at around the same time in a minute.
And that's going to be the opportunity for TTMG to claim that soul they've been hunting, or secure a Baron and try to close out the game, or maybe both. You know, they are 7,000 gold ahead, and it's looking really tough for SLS to take a fight here. They are going to try to get some vision in the bot side. They've secured that Phaelite with the control ward, but the front line for TTMG is so tanky. I don't think SLS will be able to hold on to this vision that they've secured here. Bongo has to be careful about waiting in that bush too.
Yep, he's the only one there. Will back away, will show himself. So now TTMG push into the river, look to take the positioning for the Drake spawning in 30 seconds. All 5 members have committed their time to this fight. The Forge God will be called. The target is a Bonga, who does have to flash away. The Keeper's Verdict does knock away the few targets, but it just doesn't matter that Fortune isn't here because Mint does so much damage on the Aesol. TTMG cut straight through the side of SLS. Domination is able to secure a couple of kills for himself, but it just won't matter. It's an ace to the side of TTMG.
That ace means they should be able to get this dragon. They're going to get the tower in mid lane. I don't think they'll be able to close out the game because they don't have the whole team here. But it looks like, yeah, I'm not sure if they'll even be able to do the Baron, actually. Still, a massive team fight when you can see the power of that Sky's Descend, just eviscerating the enemy team composition. Mint now 7-0 and 6 on the Aesol. You know, the only real shining, you know, light of hope for SLS is maybe you can get these 2 shutdowns, those 1k shutdowns on the mid and jungle. If they can somehow pull that off, that might maybe give them a fighting chance in this game, but it's going to be so hard to do that because look how much health Aurelion Sol has and the Volley Bear alike. They've both got Merc treads, so CCing them is going to be harder. I mean, it's looking bleak for SLS as we approach the 30-minute mark here.
And with Baron on the map as the only objective, with the Hex Tech Soul available to TTMG, they're only stronger now than they were a few minutes ago, as well as the ornaments coming through for really everybody except for the support, but you don't really mind that all too much. Burnt down, Baron claimed completely uncontested. There's not much SLS could have done there to stop it. CU is going forward. They do see Obongo will be separated out with the Event Horizon, but the collapse from Mint will dissuade any sort of push down that they had there. Forge God will be called. Finds way onto Witch at Black Mass. Doesn't take all too much damage, but all the while, mid lane was left vulnerable by the side of SLS, and now they will be missing that inhibitor. CU is taking quite low. Petrifying Gaze finds his way onto multiple members. The Keeper's Verdict sends 3 away, and so now it's only Mint and Dwango Unchained, but Seeker's getting burnt down and not quite dead. Domination able to find a kill to the side of SLS unanswered.
And that is going to stall the momentum from TTMG. So, you know, it's not necessarily the ideal target that SLS would have liked to pick, but that is going to be crucial for giving them a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of respite from this Baron buff. There are still 2 minutes left on it, but by the time Dwango Unchained is back alive, it'll be, you know, once he's back on the map properly, it's going to be just about a minute of that Baron buff left. So TTMG might be a little limited in how much they can extract in value from that. Still, they are sitting at over a 10,000 gold lead,
Yeah.
so I don't know how much more of a lead they can really get. There's always more gold you can get, but they are rapidly approaching full build on a lot of their champions here.
Yeah, and they are at full power, ready to push in this bottom lane tier 2. Any response that SLS really has? Well, what response? I suppose they just have to concede bot lane tier 2 tower, but they do have an isolated Dwango Unchained. Does have access to the teleport should any fight start up. So the siege continues. TTMG taking their time with this, knowing that they are advantaged, but aren't really pushing the envelope too far just yet, knowing that Dwango Unchained will take a little bit to get over with the teleport. Instead, opting to just put on the pressure.
43 seconds left on the Baron buff. TTMG trying to chunk away at this bottom inhibitor turret. They've got the Ornn up in the top lane, but he doesn't have Baron buff, so it should be pretty trivial to clear those waves away. Nabongo is doing his best to stall the waves with that event horizon, but sooner or later, I think that turret is going to go down in the bot lane, and Axel wants a bit of a fight, but just doesn't do enough damage to this Ornn.
Yep, they're very tanky at this point in time. The siege is continuing here in the bottom lane, but they only had 1 member move over. They'll just slowly whittle away at this bot lane tower, and they do get it. Inhibitor now exposed into play. Hit Seeker will be stopped with the W. CU is stunned up. Fortune, the target gets bursted very low. Not quite dead though. But with Fortune sitting as low as they are, Baxel's looking to go forward, dropping a few E's down on to CU, getting a decent chunk, but the Void Seeker does get the Seraph's passive out. Bless you, Freedom Potatoes. Yeah, we're moving in.
That wasn't me.
Oh wait, no, that sounded. Oh wait, that was Shirogan. Oh my gosh, I sound so stupid now because that wouldn't have come through. Oh my goodness. Well, bless you, Shirogan. I know you guys didn't hear it, but my bad.
Producers. So SLS find a nice chunk onto Fortune and are able to stall the push, hold onto those Nexus turrets, even hold onto the bot inhibitor, but they don't feel comfortable chasing because Mint is able to call upon that Sky's Ascend at a moment's whim, and that is going to turn any fight around in an instant. So SLS forced to back off and give some space. And now just a minute on the Elder Dragon. That might be the buff that pushes us into game-ending territory, or it could give SLS one more chance to fight. In the meantime, though, it's just going to be the wave clear game continuing, and that is giving some much-needed gold over to Domination.
Yeah, but with the Elder buff, like the Elder Drake spawning, it's a lot harder to steal that away on red side with the angle in. Before we get to that, Forge God will be called. Ornn comes through, knocks its way onto 3. Everyone's knocked airborne. TTMG find their way in onto the back line. Giggity picking up the first kill. It's taken kind of low though. Doesn't matter. Dwango Unchained is here. They all go forward. Mint is legendary, and SLS, any hope they might have had, any sliver of it, is no longer available to them. It's a clean ace to TTMG, and it feels like the inevitable has finally arrived.
TTMG was off to a great start from just 3 minutes into this game, and now at 34 minutes and 30 seconds, they are going to walk away with a clean win in game number 3, putting themselves on the map with an early win in the split is got to feel good.
Especially with how how comfortably they handled that game 3. Obviously, the rest of the series was a lot more topsy-turvy, but being able to show that when they are in the position to be able to close things out, to be able to choke out Skyloft Spire in the manner that they did, it was admittedly maybe not the most exciting viewing experience ever, but definitely a textbook one that really at no point felt like it ever got out of their hands.
Yeah, and I mean, with Fearless Draft being the way things are now, I think it's good to be able to show that kind of strength in a game number 3. It's not just, oh, we lost game 1 and we fight back or something. You have to show the depth of your champion pools and outclass your opponent in terms of draft and in terms of the champions that you can play on the Rift. And yeah, this game really was all TTMG, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, as we go through the graphs, we saw the damage graphs earlier. It was basically all blue throughout that dabba-dee-dabba-doo, and yeah, I mean, the game really just spoke for itself. So I mean, unless you have anything to add, Freedom Potatoes, I feel like that's it from us tonight.
Pretty much it.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
I'd consider this maybe a bit of a cautionary tale of looking at your matchups in isolation when building a team comp, because I think in isolation, like, yeah, Cassiopeia can beat the Ornn, Vhagar can work into the Aurelion Soul because of his limited mobility, things like that. But when you look at the composition as a whole, you saw how much the side of SLS struggled as the game went on. They just weren't really able to get a footing and scale into what their team composition could potentially be.
Yeah, and it didn't help. It didn't really have much of a front line either, especially as soon as Witch at Black Mass was made some just incredibly odd choices, to say the least, in the early game on the Mundo that ensured that he couldn't become that frontliner that they needed on the side of Skyloft Spire. And as soon as that happened, well, the rest, as I say, was history. To the Moon Galatea walk away with this one in a very I don't know if surprising fashion was the way, because like considering the first 2 games, we were kind of expecting this third one to be as hectic, as nonsensical, especially after seeing something like Cassiopeia top. But yeah, well played to the Moon Galatea. Congratulations to them. Thank you, Skyloft Spire, for being here on broadcast today, for giving us a match at hand as well. But that will be it from us tonight. I've been Isaac. Alongside me has been Freedom Potatoes. Shirogan's been working things behind the scenes as well. So thanks to them that we're able to bring you this match. And thanks to everyone at Titan for being able to organize this. But that will be it for us tonight. We'll be seeing you soon.